intensified abductions. This is one of the ways security apparatus are using so as to seek grounds to arrest and prosecute those behind the sponsorship of the protests. This event comes as ODM party claims that 50 Kenyans abducted by the police are still missing. The party has also raised concerns over the government's move to intimidate protesting Kenyans, yet it's their right to protest, further blaming President William Ruto for the deaths of the protesters.
As we speak, the reports are that upwards of 50 individuals have been illegally abducted and their whereabouts remain unknown. To make it worse, it is clear that no one in government is ready to take responsibility, to render an apology, or to make amends.
They've also said that they'll not allow the government to continue coming up with laws that will oppress Kenyans.
We shall walk the journey of bringing about justice and accountability for all of the regime's crimes since they took power. We stand with the people in their quest to liberate themselves politically, socially, and economically. Kenyans asked us to stand with them against the punitive tax proposals in the finance bill, and we did. Of the 115 members of the National Assembly who stood with the people and voted against the bill on the floor, 73 were in fact members of ODM.
At the same time, ODM has announced the recall of 6 members of parliament who supported the finance bill for the year 2024. The MPs are Elisha Odhiambo of Gem, Gideon Ochanda of Bondo, Elijah Memusi of Kajiado Central, Karoli Omondi of Suba South, and Emmanuel Wagwe of Navaholo.
That ODM shall initiate and lead recall processes in the following constituencies in light of the current office holders' repeated violation of their sacred oath and the wishes of their electorate. Number 1, Game constituency. Number 2, Bondo constituency. Number 3, Navaholo constituency. Number 4, Kajiado Central. Number 5, Ikolomani. And lastly, Suba South in Homa Bay.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has warned against planned protests tomorrow and Sunday, vying to end the widespread violence that has gripped the nation. Kindiki has vowed decisive action against those responsible for the anarchy and assured the public that the planners, financiers and executors of the violence would be held accountable once the ongoing investigation is complete. This follows widespread vandalism and looting yesterday of the protests that erupted in major cities including Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru and Kisumu, leaving at least 2 more people dead. This raised the death toll so far from the anti-finance bill protests to 41, according to a tally of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. KANU Chairman Gideon Moi has called on security agencies to swing into action and arrest those stealing and vandalizing property during protests. In a statement, the KANU boss noted that yesterday's protest was infiltrated by gangs whose aim was to discredit genuine protesters. The gangs, he noted, engaged in looting and vandalizing property and stealing from individuals. He said previously the protests have been peaceful, characterized by participants carrying placards and water and chanting in solidarity. And finally, Governor Gideon Mungaro is under scrutiny for purchasing a high-up vehicle worth 16 million shillings for maintaining street lights in urban areas of the county. Members of the public have criticized the county government for excesses and lack of priority in the usage of public funds. However, county officials defended the move, saying the lightning project was to spur development and investments in Mutwapa, Kilifi, Mariakani and Malindi. In a statement after public outcry, the county government said it previously installed the infrastructure without adequate provisions for maintenance, leading to non-functional street lights. That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
Do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you are sentenced, you are sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No. It's about shipping up. You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
That is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
good morning. It's Wednesday, in the middle of the week, and we already see that traffic is starting to build up places that it did not yesterday. On Haile Selassie, in and outbound traffic is quite busy. We know that folks are offloading wares and goods as you get to the market right around that area. And also traffic is already starting to build on Jago Road this morning. It's all a wait and see. The Thika Superhighway looks good coming into the CBD all the way through, all the way in from Githurai. It's going to take us out towards the Globe Cinema roundabout. As you come out of Westlands, nothing much popping here just yet. And on Limuru Road, there's traffic as you just approach Wangari Maathai at that junction. But before that, I think we're all right. Let's see what Wednesday has in store. How about you help us out as well? Let us know what's happening where you are. We'll talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning at 10 minutes after 6 o'clock, and welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation on this Wednesday. Yes, coming into a day where after quite a lot happened in the country yesterday, and with heavy hearts we continue to see the huge loss. And then things have taken a shift, and we're wondering what on earth is happening. We'll be getting into it today. Hope you're safe where you are this morning as you're listening in to this show, and we're getting into it today. Good morning. It's the what? It's the 3rd of July already, getting well into the second half of this year. And a lot to look at. Let's get into it. Right?
Mambo ni mingi.
Mambo ni mingi, my friend.
Yeah, masaa ndio machache. Na masiku yanasonga. Hey.
How are you?
Me? I'm well. It's cold.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am well. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cold.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, in here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 degrees.
What is it that people do with this thing?
Keeping the temperatures cool. So I think that must be done.
Cooling the temperatures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kusalama?
Mimi niko fit kabisa. Msee bado wako pale nje. Msee nakuja ndani.
Ndio huyo.
Msee ameingia. Mambo vipi?
Fiti. Habari ya Azizi, hofu kwako.
My hofu is fine, thanks. How's your hofu?
Your hofu is fine.
Hofu's what? Yeah.
Hali yako iko namna gani lakini?
See, when I put on the spot, this Kiswahili just disappears from my head.
No.
Okay,
when I put on the spot.
Okay, uko mzima.
Niko mzima.
Yes, that. Everything that I've said so far can be responded to exactly like that.
Okay. Sawa. Niko salama.
Uko sawa. All right, let me tell you what we shall discuss today. It's Wednesday, the 3th, and there's a lot that happened yesterday. But my goodness, you know. So there's picketing, then there's protesting, and then there's the rioting, there's robbery with violence that we have seen and where the people have come from. But let's focus on the picketing, the rule of law, and all these things. So we see people being abducted, being made to disappear, people being arrested and then being released, people being shot and dying, and others being shot and wounded, and people ending up in hospital. What is this? Now, we'll be joined by somebody who was the chairman of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, Macharia Njero. And Macharia, after IPOA, he also moved into the Judicial Service Commission, and he was a vice chair of the Judicial Service Commission. He joins us at 7 a.m. to talk about picketing, security, and the rule of law, and what is going on. What does the law say? What is his experience as the chair of IPOA, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority? He dealt, of course, with very many police officers and those cases of complaints of police overreaching their mandate. We'll be asking him those questions. Also in the judiciary, and as a lawyer as well, what has he seen and what should we be seeing? At 8 o'clock, we'll talk about this Shah story. Yeah. So yesterday there was that story of, because NHIF was expecting to stop doing things end of June, and because Shah was expected to start doing things now, there are people who require dialysis, they're going to hospital and they're being told, sasa wewe NHIF, sasa sijui what. Daniel Mwai is a doctor, and he is President Ruto's advisor on health financing, and he's one of those who is behind the push for universal health coverage and the move into the Social Health Authority. He joins us at 8 a.m. to talk about this. And then at 9, we'll open the phone lines. What are we seeing? What is this? Hii kitu tuliona jana. Ni Gen Z. They are Gen Z. Ni hawa ni Gen Z gani hawa? Kwani hawana social media? Hawana smartphone?
Hawaendi
KFC?
Hawashiki Uber.
How to me? How can we help them?
Stop stealing.
Get there. It's 6:15. We're live streaming the show everywhere. We talk about everywhere on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok, on Radio Garden. We're live on SpiceFM. Let's hear about the weather.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Conditions at 13 degrees in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23, 27 will be the high, and a partly cloudy Nakuru at 13. And temperatures in Nyeri will go to highs of 24 and lows of 12, where it's partly cloudy this morning. Cloudy in Eldoret at 12 degrees with highs of 23. And we're looking into a cloudy Mombasa at 23 with highs of 29. 29 will be the high, and a partly cloudy Malindi at 24 and at 19. Kisumu is clear with highs of 30. We'll see highs of 28 through Tuesday, and a partly cloudy Kakamega at 17 at Wednesday, I beg your pardon. And into Kampala, it's cloudy at 20 with highs of 29. And into Dar es Salaam, we'll see highs of 30, where it's partly cloudy at 23. 10 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg this morning, highs of 20 and lows of 8, while Mogadishu is cloudy at 25. It'll go to highs of 30. It's 13 and cloudy in Addis with highs of 20, we'll see lows of 11. Lagos is cloudy at 26 with highs of 29, and at 23 it's cloudy in Kinshasa with highs of 31 and lows of 21. Wednesday afternoon in Beijing is sunny at 25 with highs of 29, and Paris is cloudy at 13 with highs of 21. London at 14 is a rainy Wednesday morning, going to highs of 19 and lows of 13. Around things out in New York, where Tuesday night it's cloudy at 21. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 28 and lows of 18.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, it is 17 minutes after what?
After 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the very many people online. Nugi Kahiga says, good morning, Team Spice, locked and loaded into the Situation Room. Let's continue to pray for a peaceful Kenya. Well, good morning to you. Now, Desmond Otis says, good morning, Edna. Edna, wave at the people. Thank you very much. Ndulatif CT, give them a handshake. Can someone tell me how mosquitoes enter through a treated mosquito net?
They don't enter. They probably were there before you put up the net.
Thank you very much. Or even before you, before you put up the net, they were in the space.
They're inside the net. They're inside the space.
Right. Okay. Richard Makiadi has now made allegations, and he says, good morning, good people. The government has finally decided to sponsor goons. Okay. Jimmy Munuthi says, good morning, Team Spice, and follows, let the show begin. Here we go. Good morning, Team Spice. Kenya ni maombi tu. Zeke says, good morning, Team Spice. May peace prevail in Kenya. Happy. One mic says, expose MPigs Wednesday. Good morning from Baltimore and Maryland. Tune in from where? Tamu. Rose Grace is in Tamu. Good morning, Team Spice. Good job you're doing, Asante Sana. Ngani Malala says, good morning. The demonstrations turned ugly. Very unfortunate indeed. Salam alaikum, guys. Well, alaikum salam to you. Good morning, Ndu and Edna. They've decided that it's us that they're going to greet. Bernard Okello is tuned in from Doha. Is it ladies? It's ladies? Is that a thing? It's Ladies' Day. Oh, okay.
Sour.
Every day is Ladies' Day, but okay. Latif, during the next interview, asked Mr. Government when he'll stop unleashing goons to innocent demonstrators. That's Joe Mongai with heavy questions this morning. Robert Sibogo is tuning in from...
Let me say two things.
Okay. Let me say it like this.
Let me say two things.
How will you say it?
One.
Like this, like that? Raphael Kige says, things are not unfolding well. Cheru, the exclusive, says, good morning, Team Spice. Let's work today. Yes, let's. Good morning, Spice. We don't want a politician to lead us. Okay. Michael Olanda says, good morning from Kigali. Ian Jomo is greeting us from Nyeri. What's next for the nation? Omar G is asking. And Mama J says, good morning. A shameful day for Kenya yesterday. When will it all end? C'est la question, no?
Yeah.
Rogers Nyange says, good morning from Voi. Salary hike. Hey, Kiambu man says, salary hike for members of parliament, MCAs, governors. We are doomed, man.
Hey, yes. They work hard, Bona.
Okay. Henry Nyamokeri says, good morning, everybody. I salute Gen Z from Minnesota. Samuel Moravi is tuned in. Eric Gawira Kasira says, Eric. That's his greeting. No, it's a greeting. In fact,
maybe he's calling himself.
Perhaps. He's announcing himself.
He's announcing
Eric is here. Stockholm, Sweden is where Byron is. He says, CT, please, you read yesterday's proverb again and then sing to the Kenya police, Shauri Yako. There's a song called Shauri Yako.
Yes.
Sing it, I hear.
It's actually, that is the refrain, Shauri Yako. Shauri Yako. That is...
That's the chorus.
Yes.
That's a hook. Voila. Owen Basiri is watching from New York. Okay. Masharia and Jerry says good morning to everybody watching from Portland, Oregon. Sir George Gashori is tuning from Manchester. Cheru, also we've seen good morning. Dallas, Texas is tuning to the Situation Room this morning. Leo Princess is here and she's saying good morning. From now on, the political class in the state will ensure that the protests are more violent and destructive to try again. To try and gain presumed lost power in the space. Kennedy Anyonya says good morning. Joseph is here. Emmanuel Kipsang is tuned in. Greeting from Tudor, Mombasa. Ellen Paul says good morning. I am here again. Well, thank you for being here, Ellen. Monica Oile says good morning. Everybody else, we see you. Alvin, Peter, Talal, Christine, Owen, Eric. Karibuni sana, everybody.
Welcome, City. We are in Angola.
We are still in the Republic of Angola. His Oh, there. The president of Angola. I was about to say his president. I realized, no.
There's more than one guy.
Yes.
My president. My excellency.
Yeah, our excellency. The president of Angola is called Yao. J-O-A-O. How do you pronounce this J? Is this with a Y?
Yao.
With the Portuguese, it's a J.
It's a J.
J.
With the Spanish, it's a Y.
Okay. so this guy is Jao Lorenzo. So NCO, is it show or co?
Who knows, bro?
Lorenco. Okay? That is the president.
How do you want it to be?
I pronounced it. Okay. Somebody who understands how it should be pronounced better, please assist.
Hey.
The vice president is called Esperanza da Costa. You see, this one is straightforward. Okay? They're a unitary. Now, this one is interesting. Listen to what they are. They're a unitary dominant party presidential republic.
Unitary.
So the dominant party is the one that makes up the presidency.
Yes.
I see. The dominant party will be the president.
Isn't this an interesting one?
I like it very much.
What's the difference with the others?
The difference
is like a parliamentary democracy. It's obviously going to find the dominant party forming government.
Yes, it is.
Or okay.
But they have a president. Many of these countries that have the system that you've just spoken of tend to have a prime minister. Not all.
Many. But is this president elected by universal suffrage or by parliament, like South Africa?
This president is elected.
By people.
Bas.
Do you have another question?
By people.
No, it's a valid question. Let us throw it to our listeners. Tell us if you know that this president is actually elected as universal suffrage, or it is something that is determined by those who are already in parliament.
Like an electoral college kind of thing.
Electoral college, or the party determines who the president is going to be because they're the ones who have the majority.
They're dominant, essentially.
And they're dominant. So let us see.
How it goes.
Homework tumepewa.
Sawa.
Niende kwa proverb.
Twende.
What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog.
Mimi hapo. What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog.
It's already wet.
It's the order.
Can't be wetter. Just because another phenomenon happened.
Yep.
Like a smaller phenomenon.
Yep. Ni ukweli huo.
Nimeyapitia mengi.
Bana we.
Hauntishi. Let's look at the headlines.
The headlines from the paper.
You're only peppering one today.
Only peppering one.
Okay.
Shut down on the front page of the Standard this morning. And there's a picture.
Yeah.
Somewhere there is a Kenyan flag.
Yeah.
And on the other side, I think this picture is very interesting because so many things happening in it at once, but it gives a complete picture of everything. And there's a fire to the side and there's somebody who stands in the middle of it, still standing. Business in major towns and cities came to a standstill yesterday after protesters took to the streets and blocked highways. The protests, however, degenerated into acts of looting and property destruction after thugs infiltrated the demonstrations across the country, causing massive losses. This is covered on page 4 and 5. Raila Odinga made an appearance yesterday after a while. And one of the things he said, Ruto, you've got blood on your hands. ODM leadership yesterday castigated the president for unleashing terror on citizens using the police and military, a move that saw dozens killed. MPs take cover as demos increase. Well, surprise, surprise.
They've taken cover.
Yeah. During a crisis, it is expected that the elected leadership will lead from the front in coming up with solutions. But no. Members of Parliament have chosen to stay away for fear of reprisals from protesters. Fear of student safety in schools. Teachers have raised concerns that the ongoing protests will affect learners as their security in institutions is not guaranteed. Many did not reopen yesterday. This is true, actually.
Very true.
Yes, and many are saying that they don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Don't even know what to do.
But they will not go. They will not go to school. We saw many circulars appear on Monday night saying tomorrow morning, keep your children at home. We can resume on Wednesday, and then possibly Thursday. We will not come again. That is what is happening. So, A court has declined to quash the former NYS clerk in the 468 million shilling corruption case. Well, one would say that's a good thing. Then the governor of Kilifi County has purchased a 16 million shilling vehicle. And people have said, are you crazy?
Okay.
Don't do like that.
Okay. Ni gari ya nini? Ya kubeba mboga ama yake ya kutumia nini?
Yake.
Hapana.
It's too much.
And it's cost how much?
16 million.
Only.
Roundabout.
Well,
see, I think the story is...
let's read the story.
We'll tell you the story.
Read the story.
Exactly what has happened and how the
it's
water
for maintaining street lights in the county, the vehicle.
It's those ones that have a crane.
Yes.
City. Uko na hiyo kitu ya nini? Star.
Shut down. Chaos. Billions of losses as protests persist. My friend. Heart-wrenching tales of families grieving sons lost during the protests. Crisis. National oil company red flagged over no fuel. My friend, I don't know. Ikituzifiti.
Nikubaya. It's not.
Ikituzifiti. This conversation about the demonstrations.
Now it has completely turned.
This thing is no longer a protest.
It's not.
And these guys are not even out here saying anything. They're just...
No, they're just on a rampage.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And the question which though must persist is who is on the rampage?
Us. Who? And what are they after?
Yes, the who question must be asked.
Let's take a break. We'll look at them in greater detail shortly. 28 minutes after 6.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so seeing a little bit more movement into the city today. Coming off Mombasa Road, heading into the city, I think we're fine. All the way through, coming in from Lolongo, you'll get straight through Cabanas, and then out towards General Motors, through and through, we're all right? Thika Superhighway, we're seeing some traffic there already building, but it's just around Survey that we'll see the most of that. And then as you get towards the Pangani Tunnel, it's going to slow down quite some, and we're looking at heavy traffic already. It's heavy on Landis Road, getting out towards Haile Selassie. Very, very busy here. Let's take a look at Kangundo Road. Yes, there it is. Traffic coming in towards Outer Ring. Some of that will go then towards the Thika Superhighway. The rest of it coming in this direction through towards Embakasi. And then also North Airport Road, we're also seeing some build-up as you get towards Cabanas. So that's all popping. Let's take a look at Ngong Road, where nothing is happening, at least not for now. Keeping an eye on things is what we'll do as we get into Traffic Hour. We'll talk SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This story of members of parliament who have disappeared, or as they say, they're nowhere to be found when these demos are taking place. One would expect that when things like this happen, those who've been put in these elected positions would come out. Now, MPs speak from their hideouts, fearing wrath of irate protesters. The third arm of government is missing. Dun, dun. Although MPs are supposed to check the government's excesses against their people in the face of unfolding crisis, they seem to have gone mute. The whereabouts of a majority of the 349 members of parliament has in the last 1 week been like a top secret, even as the protests continue rocking the country, paralysing businesses as police gun down protesters. Wow. After voting for the Finance Bill 2024, which they passed before going into a recess, most of the MPs yesterday said that they have decided to lie low to avoid the anger of members of the public who have been targeting their homes and businesses as punishment for passing the finance bill. It is now emerging that over 20 homes or businesses of members of parliament have been attacked by the irate mob. Some members of parliament said that they had to move their parents and close relatives from their rural homes and discard their vehicles to avoid protesters who are still baying for their blood. Most of the leaders did not attend Sunday services for fear of being smoked out by the furious youth who have vowed to cleanse the pulpit, which has been desecrated by politicians. The politicians have also been forced out of social media platforms where they regularly engage with the electorate. Somebody talks, they say, get out. Leaders such as Murang'a Women Representative Betty Maina said that she had 2,000 beehives ready for distributing to the youth groups, but was wondering what to do as they have been restricted by the youth not to move. On Sunday, she said she was forced to fellowship with her husband, Mathira MP Eric Wamumbi, since they said they don't want us to go to church yet. We've been born and raised at the church, but they had to fellowship together, alone, at home. I now understand why Moses smashed down the tablet with 10 commandments, she said. The reason why Moses smashed down the tablets with 10 commandments is because when he descended Mount Sinai, or Sinai, he found that the people were misbehaving. They
had made for themselves some golden
calf, and they were worshipping it. Meanwhile, he had been up the mountain for what scholars and theologians say was months, right? Hearing from God. Now he's come down from the mountain and people are misbehaving.
He's coming with commandment
number one. Thou shalt have no other God before me. That's what you see.
And it says cow.
Cow made out of gold. Smash the tablet.
So the God is definitely, another God is there before them. Yeah. Clearly.
How do you even start now reading it?
Where do you start from?
God has told me commandment number one, thou shalt not.
Now, Betty Maina says she understands.
This is why. Because she's now come down from the mountain and she's funding people.
Have another God. So she's saying what?
Beehives.
Okay. Now, she says, I feel for the families of MPs who are now being targeted. Sorry, this is now nominated MP Sabina Chege. She says her colleagues have kept off public spaces as their people were not ready to listen to them, adding that other colleagues had been forced to relocate their families. We don't know where to. But she says now that, they've been targeted, they cannot come out in the public because they voted for the finance bill. Their children and parents have nothing to do with the voting. And it is unfortunate that they're bearing the biggest brunt. Everybody can make mistakes, so she said that it's a mistake. And the MPs and the president are no exception. So inadvertently, she's saying, perhaps a mistake was made. She asked whether the National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, should recall the House to provide leadership in times of crisis. Chege said, I don't think this has anything to do with Parliament. We did our part, she said, and the President withdrew the bill. We just give people time to relax because they are unreasonable. And the more you talk, the more you make things worse.
Watatulia too. This bill, once it's been returned to Parliament, what then happens?
There's a very nice explainer by the Speaker of the National Assembly on what happens. So what is expected to happen, if we just jump into that and answer it quickly, according to how the Speaker has explained it. When the President returned it with that memorandum, recommending a revision of it and deletion of all clauses, what's expected to happen is if there is any member of Parliament who disagrees with the proposal by the President, you need to marshal 2/3 of the members of the House to defeat the President's request. Short of that, then the President's request carries the day. Carries the day,
okay.
Yeah. So for it to, for you to deny, to reject what the President has come up with in that memorandum, 2/3 of you must say, absolutely no way.
That is a simple rule.
Yeah. So now he has committed that to the Committee on Finance and Planning, and he's communicated to MPs, and he has said any MP who has issues or would like to, if there is, when we resume, when someone says that they have 2/3, we can take a vote and it can carry the day. We can reject the President's recommendation for deletion of the bill. Sawa.
Yeah.
Get it? Get it. Now, but then, in this story of what we are seeing with the MPs, I'm actually looking at it from two sides. One, yes, people are angry at the members of Parliament for what they say. We told you, we expressed ourselves to you, and you refused to listen to us. Okay? But then there's the other side of extending it now to the families of these members of Parliament, and that's wrong. Where MPs now feel that they are not safe because people are coming and torching homes. What they did to Kuria Kimani's home and businesses, that was wrong. going and, you're finding chicken. These are his cuckoos. You burn them. You go into his house and you vandalize the home. That was wrong.
It's true.
That was wrong, and it has to be called out. Threatening the family members of individual members of parliament, that is wrong. MPs now having to hide their families and relocate their families, that is, can you imagine what's happening to those children? Even the day I'll come back to school and all my classmates have heard what your parents are saying,
it's stigmatization and then eventual ostracization, which is just wrong.
We have to draw the line. We are dealing with a member of parliament in their individual capacity, not in their domestic capacity.
It's true.
The story of mayhem in the streets as gangs infiltrate demos and steal and burn is covered in page 4 and 5 of the Standard today. There's a photo here of one of the cars that was burnt along Biashara Street in Mombasa yesterday. My goodness. These guys just come, what they started, we saw all the clips where they started throwing and hurling stones at this restaurant, and then the owner of the restaurant came out brandishing a weapon, and then he fired in the air, and then he fired towards the demonstrators, and then there were more and more people. They hurled stones into his restaurant. They broke the glasses. They entered. They vandalized. They torched houses that were parked outside this restaurant. That is just a complete...
If you read the story from the beginning, knife-wielding youths who are attacking everybody, protesters, people just walking by.
On the streets.
Those are not protesters.
No, they weren't. And it was obvious that they had an agenda and they were filling that agenda. They wanted to destroy.
Yes.
They wanted to bring harm. They wanted to loot and steal. That is exactly what was happening. And you could tell what they were doing.
Yes.
You could tell.
Imagine they went into Pandya Hospital and they broke into Davi Pharmacy and carted away medicine of unknown value.
Not for what?
You tell me. Are those protesters?
Those are not protesters.
What if the girl who now took one of those rungus outside of her shop and she said, you know what? We're going to stop the protest. And these guys are actually here to destroy. No, we're going to secure our businesses. Once we secure our businesses, then we shall continue the protest. But these guys, what they're coming to do, apana.
The story that I found alarming is a quotation by somebody who was robbed by these thugs. And it says, I lost my phone and shoes to the attackers who also hurt me with a knife. It's like chaos was unleashed on us by the state because the police watched as I was attacked. Now that I found disturbing. If that quotation is to be believed, so are we saying that these hooligans were marauding as police watched?
Yes.
This time, police were watching.
They were watching.
On this justification, on Friday, the High Court in Malindi temporarily restrained the police from using tear gas, water cannons, live ammunition, rubber bullets, or other brutal force against protesters. Justice Mugore Dande also restrained police from extrajudicial killings, abductions, detention, or torture of the protesters until the petition by Saitaba Ole Kanchori is determined.
But then, does that therefore mean that the police have no other manner or no other process by which they can restrain looters
of protecting,
except by violence, by throwing tear gas, or by... Is that what we're saying? Because if you're restrained from doing these things, are you restrained from actually standing and stopping?
You see, that's what makes it so messy, right? Because on the one hand, the protests, which were largely peaceful, right? The actual protests, I'm not talking about this crap that happened later. The protests, which were largely peaceful, we then saw the using of tear gas and the water cannons and all of this.
When it was peaceful.
Which is what Saitaba went to court and said, guys, let's prohibit this from happening. Now, you have this whole process infiltrated by these guys who are now coming to steal and rob. But then now the police will stand back in entirety and say, okay, as far as we're concerned, all of this is a protest. So we'll stand back. Do you see?
Are they aware that when you take such a stand and people who you swore to protect are being attacked as you watch, where do you think the attackers are going to go next?
You.
Yes.
Yeah, you.
You know, so yesterday, Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, released a statement, and he talked about last week. He said on Tuesday last week, an unprecedented civil unrest occurred in Nairobi and several other towns in Kenya, as a result of which lives were lost, property worth billions of shillings destroyed or looted, and an attempt was made to burn down parliament buildings. The unrest, legitimately initiated as the democratic expression of public disapproval of the finance bill, led to the termination of that bill. Notwithstanding the termination of the bill, hordes of marauding criminal gangs continue to pose grave danger to the public, riding on unannounced plans for peaceful protests to disturb public order, commit arson, obstruct public transport, and terrorize the people of Kenya with violence. Overall, the police continue to act professionally and with restraint in the management of extremely provocative situations that arise in the course of the violent riots. The government commends all the law enforcement officers who continue to discharge their challenging mandate of preventing crime and protecting the lives and property of the people. Claims of some instances of unlawful conduct by the law enforcement officers will be investigated and appropriate action taken. Security agencies remain alert to intercept harm to the public and attempts to attack critical infrastructure. Upon completion of the ongoing evidential analysis, the government assures the public that the planners, executors, and financiers of large-scale arson, violent robberies, and other felonious crimes will be brought to justice. The organizers of today's orgy of violence in parts of Nairobi, Mombasa, and several other parts of the country are reportedly planning to repeat their anarchy, chaos, and cruel plunder again on Thursday and Sunday this week, and perhaps much more frequently in the future. This reign of terror against the people of Kenya and the impunity of dangerous criminal gangs must end at whatever cost. The government is determined to stop criminals aiming to terrorize the public and harm Kenya, notwithstanding attempts to politicize crime. That's Kithure Kindiki's statement last night.
Okay. The police continue to operate in a professional manner.
Yeah.
Okay.
He says they are investigating. They have evidentiary enough evidence that they're looking at. Okay.
Okay.
And very soon, very, very soon, they are going to arrest the organizers, funders, and mobilizers of this arson.
Very, very soon?
Very, 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 very soon.
This is the same.
He's saying the intelligence that they have is that these same funders, organizers, financiers are planning another demo tomorrow, on Sunday, and probably even more frequently.
Okay. The same one who said he was going to name the names of these individuals who then were perpetuating insecurity in the North Rift.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
We even had an opportunity where some days were mentioned as being the ultimate deadline for everything to cease and for success to be witnessed, isn't it?
Yes.
And did that happen?
No.
No. As soon as that was mentioned, we remember clips showing us the erstwhile CS in one of those war-torn areas, and a fire not very far away from where he was standing. It's like he was being dared by these particular individuals.
Koja.
But also, I see something a little more sinister here.
Tell us.
If you tell us in advance that these people are planning to be chaotic, they're planning to maim, to rob, okay, what are you going to do about it? You've told us you know them. You see, it also says that if you say you know these people, then you knew who was planning this, you knew who they are, and yet you let them do what they were doing. You say you knew them. And then going forward, you know what they're planning for Thursday and for Sunday. Okay? So, are we to expect that the government will act and that this will cease? Or is it that we're going to revisit this mayhem again, and then we're going to be told we're still investigating, and then we know them? Property will be lost. Lives will be lost. So, if one then points a finger at that particular ministry and at the government, will one be wrong in doing so?
I think the issue here would be how he's communicating, in my opinion. Because he says, we have intelligence that's telling us, and it's possible they know that there are people who are telling them, okay, what I'm hearing is that there's another plan for Thursday. Who's organizing? I don't know. I don't know yet. So they are still trying to piece together this information that's coming. It's coming from some central organization of some sort, and necessarily they are working towards arriving at that central organization of that some sort. Okay, let's just give benefit of the doubt here. How do you then communicate that? I've heard that they're coming back on Thursday and maybe on Sunday. So what are you telling us? Are you telling us to stay at home on Thursday and on Sunday? Are you telling us to shut our businesses on Sunday, on Thursday? Are you telling us that whatever happens, if you're walking, make sure you're walking next to a police officer on Thursday? And what is the message here to the public?
Are you telling us that because you know them, you'll arrest them before Thursday?
Before Thursday.
So we have no need to worry. Well, what exactly is being said? You can't have all that knowledge, and yet the message I hear is we're still in danger.
Let me remind you of the kind of intelligence and police service that we have in this country. People sat and organized and crossed over from Somalia and entered Kenya and went and lived in a house in Ruaka, somewhere around there. And then one morning, they got into a vehicle. They went to 14 Riverside, they shot and killed people. Within hours, police had identified these guys, where they were staying, when they came in, who their perpetrators and who their co-conspirators were. All those co-conspirators were arrested within days. Okay? And they were taken to court.
Yes, they were.
This is within okay, so these guys they were in the morning, they had rented a house, who else were they with? The night before they had taken some chai somewhere, they had sat there, then they went and prayed. They had pieced together the movements of these guys within hours. This is a week after last Tuesday's arson in Parliament, where we were told that this thing has been infiltrated.
And here we are.
7 days later, the police are still not sure who exactly is infiltrating, but they have some evidence that they are looking at, and they have heard that these guys could even come back again on Thursday and on Sunday, and even more frequently in coming days. This same intelligence and police service.
In this same country.
In this same country. Impossible.
Our papers are replete with examples of situations where our investigative services within the police service have been able to unravel something that seemed very complicated in a matter of days. 1, 2, 3, done. Finished, dusted, people are going to court. Now you're telling me that activities that involve this large number of people, surely among these people causing mayhem, there must be police informers.
No, for sure.
Oh,
That's
yes.
just how they operate.
Yes. People who are inclined towards breaking the law or often provide a service to the security.
To the law enforcers.
Yes, they do. So it cannot be said they don't know. So if they do know, then what exactly is happening? I would have expected that by now, arising from the matters that we saw in Parliament, by now the President himself said we will see on Sunday. Today is Wednesday. Have we heard of the perpetrators of some of these crimes being taken to court?
He said
some
that
people were taken to court on Monday.
Yes.
And were taken to court because they participated in this. But there's something bigger here. The President called it treason. Treason is not like a small thing.
Actually, no, it is.
And this is, he said, it's an attack on our democracy and our institutions. Now, that is not something that you take 33 weeks to unravel who is organizing treason to overthrow our democracy and overthrow our constitution. My friend.
That is something you deal with swiftly.
Yes.
And have we dealt with this swiftly?
You go and find the queen bee right there, deep inside that anthill.
They know.
And you bring out the queen bee and you hold it like this and say, this is
it. We found the thing.
Yes.
Why do you think there's a reluctance to actually then be very open and transparent about exactly what's going on? For something that is so public in nature...
which involves so many people. How can it be secret?
Absolutely. Because if you say that you have an idea that somebody's going to do something, somebody must have told you, you must have names, you must have identities, then why would you not act on it as quickly? And we've heard such sentiment before, especially when we look at insecurity in the North Rift. We said, we know the names of who these people are and we are going to mention them publicly. That has never happened.
Kwanzaa, they're spiritual leaders.
Yeah. To date, that has never happened. So for me, the question is, why is there a reluctance to then make this information public? Why? Why wouldn't you want to say,
or even
this
just
is exactly what's happening?
Don't even come and tell us. Listen, what we just need to do is see the DPP in court saying,
this and this and this.
We are here to charge so and so with treason, with crime, with robbery, violence, with organizing, perpetrating, funding.
Yeah, because look at what we're looking at. For like yesterday, for example, the destruction of property, the looting, the burning is very, very difficult to take.
Yeah.
So something that happened in that manner was perpetuated by some people. Why would you be so reluctant then, if you know that there is information about them and where they are coming from? Why wouldn't you act with speed? Why? Across the country, Mombasa, Nairobi, Eldoret, Migori. Why wouldn't you? I don't understand.
You see, the problem is that even if indeed there is a problem and there are difficulties in identifying, or there's a bigger plan to let this thing play out so that they can get to the bottom of certain things. The unfortunate thing is that it's going to feed into the sort of things that people say regarding government activities which involve perpetuating situations such as this one. Unfortunately, that's what it's going to feed into. Because if already there is the narrative, and there are those who've said it without evidence, of course, that it is the government that is helping perpetuate what we're seeing. There is no evidence to support that view. However, there's also the narrative that there are individuals who've sponsored these. Is there evidence? No.
No.
I haven't come across any. Maybe you have. If these are the narratives that we hear, and people in government, high up in government, have said the people who are sponsoring it, okay, even if there is a bigger plan, if you know there are people, surely you must know what they are planning. And you, by telling us you're expecting something on Thursday and Sunday, then indeed you do know.
Mind you, this is the same alleged same security arena where people have been picked up over the last 2 weeks for the thought that they might be fomenting some kind of dissent against government.
Yes.
Same, on a hunch.
Yes.
They've been picked up and they've been taken and put in cells wherever. Same security apparatus has picked up individuals. The number that KNHRC has given us is 50 people across board have been picked up on some kind of intelligence. So if you can act on that side, why can you not then act on that same kind of intelligence on this side?
I would have assumed that the ringleaders would have been the first target. And if indeed the ringleaders, if they are such people, then it would mean not the peaceful protesters. The harm that we're seeing by now should have been nipped in the bud. But it seems to be, it's escalating. This is the problem. It's escalating. Either which way, the government is going to have fingers pointed at it.
Sana.
Either which way.
Sana. Now, yesterday, ODM came out and Raila Odinga joined the calls to have President William Ruto resign over his handling of nationwide protests. In a stinging statement, the opposition party said the president had blood on his hands, referencing the killings of innocent protesters, saying the protests of June 25th were a vote of no confidence against President Ruto. A statement that was read by ODM Secretary General Edward Sifuna, he said, "We have the most callous, insensitive and obtuse regime in the history of Kenya. It's no wonder chants of Ruto must go are ringing out all across the land. Government must never abdicate its responsibility to protect the life and property of its citizens, and if it does, it deserves to go." He spoke after the Central Committee meeting convened by ODM leader Raila Odinga, who flanked him during the press briefing. "The youth have spoken in clear and certain terms. Let us not pretend like we don't hear what they have said. You have heard, we have heard, and Ruto has heard it," Sifuna said in response to the growing calls for the president's resignation. So ODM yesterday, the Central Committee top organ met, and this is what came out and said, well, we support the youth, and they're saying Ruto must go, and we're saying Ruto must go. I don't expect anything else from an opposition political party.
No, I don't either. You see, the Ruto must go is against a backdrop of things that one anticipated and expected, some based on promises that were made from the government, okay? But my thinking is that where we are right now, the conversation has to change.
Yeah.
This isn't the time for recrimination and for finger pointing, if you ask me, because we're at a precipice here. When you see mayhem taking root in the manner that it's taking, and allegedly we are told the police are standing by and watching, but this was in Nairobi, because in places like Mombasa, they did come in belatedly, but they did, okay? And then one could argue the police can't be everywhere at once. That's absolutely true. The conversation has to change, because if it doesn't change and we do not focus on how best it is, changes can be made. Not protest quelled. That's not the issue here. These protests are consequences of things that should have been done and were not done.
Right.
And the only way that one can take a stand and quell them is if there is evidence that the things that need doing are being done.
Yeah.
This is true.
How do we move that conversation into that? So into just saying, can we actually synthesize and bring down the issues? What are the issues? Because I think even Ruto must go is not necessarily saying Ruto must exit office.
No.
It is Ruto must go for not doing ABCD. It is an expression of we are feeling that this government is not doing what it ought to be doing.
And you are the head of the government, so it is you we are pointing fingers at. Yes.
So what are those issues that people feel need to happen? And can we put them out down there? Which ones can be done immediately? Which ones require now a journey towards achieving and realizing them? What are they? I think that's where this conversation is to go.
It is.
And those who are, and I've seen, in fact, yesterday I briefly joined an X space in which Professor Kivuza Kibwana, Ruben Kigame and others were speaking, and they were saying the same thing. So now, how do we push towards the realization of those things, like immediately? If it's about corruption, it's about better management of the public finances. If it's about all those things, better communication by government, how do we get them done?
You know,
I think that would be the next step.
There's a political thinker called A.J.P. Taylor. I'm quoting what he said. He said that it is in politics and in the events in politics that the impossible happens. You see, here we have a problem. Fine. Eric hit the nail on the head. Articulate them one by one. Okay? What can we do now so that we can see the changes right away and immediately? What do we need to do in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months? Now, the people who are in authority are the ones who ought to be having this conversation.
Right.
And communicating and saying, we heard what you said, this is what we've done.
Yeah.
We heard what you've said, this is what we've done.
Yeah.
And you can check. We've heard what you've said. But in the absence of that, and if the conversation still remains, they are thugs, they are hooligans, we see them. This youthful protest was peaceful until, we've understood that and we're seeing the ramifications of it. It will come to an end. All these things come to an end at some point. But at what cost? And will we have achieved what we wanted to achieve?
When Kofi Annan mediated Kenya's talks in 2008, there were concrete items that were actually listed. Number one, sharing of government. Go to Parliament, amend the constitution to accommodate this new form of government, number one. And then there were 4 agenda items. Review what happened in that election. Review what happened in terms of violence. Look at historical injustices. And go ahead and have this constitution conversation concluded. Clear. So there's a commission on Krigla. There's a commission on WACI. There's a TJRC commission. And then immediately, can you form a team that will then bring us towards a constitution and clear the timelines? Deliverables that are very clear.
Yeah.
We need to have that kind of moment now. So if the first thing is you want people to be fired, just say, reconstitute your cabinet or whatever.
By the way, you've just hit the nail on the head. And I foresee a situation where this so-called government of national unity may be in the offing. Yes.
7 a.m. news time. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Newswire. I'm Leah. Ubaga. Concern is growing over the safety of school-going children as anti-government protests continue, with another one expected tomorrow as well as Sunday. Many schools yesterday remained closed on a day that children were expected back in class after the midterm break. The protests are expected to continue on Thursday with organized efforts on social media platforms such as Twitter Spaces, building a massive movement. Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General Colin Soyu has, however, called on teachers to be vigilant during the protest period. Oyu called on the tutors to conduct self-assessment of their safety before heading to school. National Parents Association Chairman Silas Obuhatsa, on his part, also said the recent wave of protests have had an impact on the rights of children to enjoy a basic education. Obuhatsa said the early midterm break and the delays in reopening after the midterm break will be disadvantageous to some learners. ODM party claims that 50 Kenyans abducted by the police are still missing. The party has also raised concerns over the government's move to intimidate protesters, as well as blamed President William Ruto for the deaths of the protesters.
As we speak, the reports are that upwards of 50 individuals have been illegally abducted and their whereabouts remain unknown. To make it worse, it is clear that no one in government is ready to take responsibility, to render an apology, or to make amends.
They've also said that they'll not allow the government to continue coming up with laws that are punitive to Kenyans.
We shall walk the journey of bringing about justice and accountability for all of the regime's crimes since they took power. We stand with the people in their quest to liberate themselves politically, socially, and economically. Kenyans asked us to stand with them against the punitive tax proposals in the finance bill, and we did. Of the 115 members of the National Assembly who stood with the people and voted against the bill on the floor, 73 were in fact members of ODM.
At the same time, ODM has announced the process of expelling 6 members of parliament who supported the finance bill. The MPs are Elisha Odhiambo of Gem, Gideon Ochando of Bondo, Elijah Memusi of Kajiado Central, Carolia Mundi of Suba South, and Emmanuel Wangwe of Navakholo.
That ODM shall initiate and lead recall processes in the following constituencies in light of the current office holders' repeated violation of their sacred oath and the wishes of their electorate. Number 1, Game constituency. Number 2, Bondo constituency. Number 3, Navakholo constituency. Number 4, Kajiado Central. Number 5, Ikolomani. And lastly, Suba South in Homa Bay.
One person died yesterday after falling from a moving truck that was escaping rowdy protesters at Imali along Mombasa Nairobi Highway in Makueni County. Confirming the death, Kilome Nursing Home Hospital's in charge, Stanley Muya, said the unidentified man, seemingly in his 20s, died immediately after getting admitted at the facility. And still on matters of protest, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has warned against the planned protests on Thursday, that is tomorrow, and Sunday, vowing to end the widespread violence that has gripped the nation. Kindiki has vowed decisive action against those responsible for the anarchy and assured the public that the planners, financiers and executors of the violence would be held accountable once the ongoing investigation is complete. This follows widespread vandalism and looting during yesterday's protests that erupted in major cities including Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru and Kisumu, leaving at least 2 more people dead and several other Kenyans injured. This raised the death toll so far from the anti-finance bill protests to 41, according to a tally of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. And finally, police officers arrested a private citizen linked to the shooting of 2 people in Mombasa on Tuesday during anti-government protests. The private firearm holder was cornered by the detectives after a spirited manhunt. This was after reports narrowed down on him as the culprit behind the shootings, which occurred in Ganjoni, Mombasa County at noon. 2 people who sustained severe injuries from the shooting incident were rushed to the hospital for specialized medical attention. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
On a sunny Wednesday morning, let's take a quick look at what's happening with traffic on the streets today. All right, we saw that earlier. It has started to build up on the Thika Superhighway as you're getting into the CBD. You're going to get stuck at the Pangani Tunnel. It's going to take some time to get out of that as everybody's now coming in heavy towards the CBD, trying to get stuff done for today. All right, let's also take a look. Naivasha Road heading out towards Ngong Road is heavy as you go into the CBD as well. Haile Selassie is not letting up with traffic that's coming in heavy from Landis and also onward traffic from Jogo Road. And there's the Thika Superhighway packing all the way beyond the Allsop stage, and it's heavy coming in from Githera. It's going to get through Clayworks out towards Kasarani, and then it builds as you get towards Garden City or Tusker. Take your pick. All right. On Outer Ring, there's traffic also coming out towards the Thika Superhighway on the other side, and Mombasa Road is also starting to pile up as you get then towards Cabanas. An eye on things this morning is what we'll keep. Let's talk. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 after 7 on this third day of the 7th month of 2024. Welcome to the second hour of The Situation Room. Good morning. We are on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, on YouTube and Facebook, on TikTok, on Radio Garden. Broadcasting from Nairobi to the world, wherever you are. Asante sana for joining the conversation. Ndu,
yes.
Let me tell you something.
Do too.
I know you are in a chama, and if you're not in a chama, maybe if I am wrong, I know you know someone who's in a chama. Sindio, you have some friends who are members of a chama. Okay. Now there's a message to you for you to take to them. Tell them, you guys are in a chama and you've been thinking about, health insurance, and you've been looking at it and thinking, oh my goodness, health insurance is expensive. How do I get it? If you're in a chama, listen up. Jubilee Health Insurance has a plan for you, the Group Micro Cover. The Group Micro Cover is ideal for groups starting from 10 people. It offers comprehensive coverage for pre-existing and chronic conditions. You get free telemedicine services and local emergency road evacuation, ensuring peace of mind for everyone in the group. It's a fantastic option for groups looking to secure their health together. Imagine that.
How about it?
So you're 10 of you, you are in a chama and you're thinking, okay, how do we do this? You can actually take up that group cover. And it covers you all individually. And the good thing about that is, those things of pre-existing conditions, read between the lines that they're no.
Fine print.
They can't start telling you, you see now, you took this cover last week, you clearly had this condition. No. It immediately has the pre-existing and chronic conditions there. You have telemedicine services. You got local emergency road evacuation. So you are in an emergency, they'll send an ambulance, or you can use an ambulance. Insurance, Jubilee Health Insurance will pay for it.
I like it.
Senor, it's the way to go. There's a number that you can call them. City, what's that number? Jubilee Health?
It is 0709 949
yes
000.
0709 949 000. And you can go to their website, jubileeinsurance.com, or text the word health, Herod, to 40643. 40643. Jubilee Health Insurance will speak to you and they'll walk the journey with you. It's a cover to think of. Our guest is in the studio. He is Macharia Njero. He is the former vice chairman of the Judicial Service Commission, and previously he had served as chairman of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. Macharia, were you the first chair of IPOA?
Yes, I was the first chair. Actually, I helped found IPOA, were the ones who set it up.
Very good.
Right from the inception.
Very good.
That's right.
You are the right man to sit on the hot seat today.
Thank you.
You will explain to us. But before we do that, Ndu will tell you about Roysambu. You know Roysambu?
Yes, I do.
Very good. And you also, the Aga Khan University Hospital.
Yes, I do.
Now those two come together.
Yes, they do. They've come together, and what has happened now is that in Roysambu is a new specialty care centre, and it's all based on the idea that, look, quality healthcare you shouldn't have to travel far to get it, right? So the Roysambu Specialty Care Centre is at Jewel Plaza, and what they've done is said, okay, how about we bring in a number of specialists, we introduce a number of services so that you don't have to go far to get this care, dialysis, chemotherapy, endoscopy, etc., and we also have several specialists on board, from surgeons to oncologists, gastroenterologists, everybody there all day to make sure that you can actually get the medical care and attention that you need. It's at Jewel Plaza on the Roysambu roundabout. It's universal quality healthcare here and now.
Yeah, it's a good story. Yeah?
That's what the government should actually be doing. By now, many years after independence, it shouldn't be so difficult for ordinary Kenyans to enjoy, good healthcare.
Yeah.
But of course, government in, government out, they've all failed because they don't care much about the public interest. A lot of times about a personal interest, which is rather unfortunate.
City will welcome you with the day's proverb, but before he gives you the proverb, he'll also tell you how to make money. Okay? If you have 50,000 shillings today, Sharia, City can help you convert it to 1 million shillings in 2 months.
I'm in the right place then.
50,000 shillings to 1 million in 2 months. City tell him.
There are many banking institutions, but there's one particular one that is presenting those who bank with them, with something that they would find interesting. The bank is called Stanbic Bank, and they're saying, look, we'd like you to switch. And to welcome you into this switch, we're saying, if you open an account with us and you deposit 50,000 shillings, what then will happen is immediately you will be entered into a monthly draw. This monthly draw gives you a chance to win 200,000 shillings as a first prize, first runner-up. I used to say second. I was told it's first runner-up. There's no second nowadays. And there's even no third. Second runner-up.
First runner-up.
First runner-up is 100,000. Second runner-up is 50,000. But it doesn't stop there. There is a draw that takes place after the 3 months since the initiation of this particular program. And when that comes about, you stand to win 1 million shillings. First runner-up will win 500,000 shillings. Second runner-up will win 300,000 shillings. Did I say 50 million? No, I said 500,000 shillings, not 50 million.
No, winner gets 1 million.
First runner-up, 500,000. Third runner-up, I think third.
Second runner-up.
Second runner-up, who is actually third. Man, this runner-up thing is really confusing me. 300,000 shillings. But it doesn't stop there. If you are seeking a mortgage, this is what they're saying. Come to us. We'll offer you a mortgage at 9.5%. And it is constant. It will not go up. It will not go down. It will stay at 9.5% for the duration of time. And if you have a mortgage elsewhere and you want to switch, we welcome you. And the rates will be the same, 9.5%. Now, surely that is worth looking into, and that is worth calling them and talking to them about.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Stanbic Bank. Say switch and win. So, the day's proverb, City?
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Angola. What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog.
What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog. What's your interpretation of this, Wakili?
My take on it is that what has happened or what ought to happen will still happen regardless, in the sense that you may try to, interpret things differently. You may try to change. You may try to, stop what really has to happen, or, as they say sometimes, you can't change the direction of a river. Once it has taken its course, it's taken its course. And no matter how much effort you may try to stop it, it's impossible to stop it. And in fact, I would relate it even with the current situation of Gen Zs.
Yeah.
When they are fighting for certain causes, when they are fighting for certain rights that they believe has been denied to them, when they think that the direction is not right, it's much easier just to relate to what they are racing, compromise and look at where did the rain start beating us, rather than fighting it, because no matter how much you try to fight it, it won't just stop. It won't fizzle away.
Understand it first.
Understand it. Identify with them, Understand the spirit and the mood of the nation at any given time. Align with it. And then when you're within it, just make things happen. Because at the end of the day, it's what the public wants, and you can't stop that. And I think that's where the failure of most of our leaders comes in. They want to relate with their personal feelings as opposed to the wishes and aspirations of the public.
And relate to personal feelings as opposed to what the public wants.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because when you're in leadership, actually you're a trustee at whatever level. Sometimes the problem with our leaders is that they confuse the leadership as an entitlement or as a right, as a personal right. They forget that they do it in trust for the people. And you're only given that position for a time. Whichever leader you are, once that time comes, you leave.
Yeah.
You already called me a former chair of IPOA. I was a chair at one time, being called chairman. I am not. That's the reality of life. I was vice chair of JSC for a time. I am not. So even a president, even an MP, even a cabinet secretary, we all serve for a time, and you leave, and others will come in.
Okay.
So it's all about understanding that you are there for a time, for a purpose, and your time to leave will come, whether you like it or not.
You will help us to understand a couple of things in our conversation today, hopefully. I want to start from the farthest, which is you came from the private sector, you came into government, you served in a government institution, and then you went into another government institution. And people look at, people who are in government institutions, particularly in these commissions, and you're like, my God, it's like your life changes from, one side to the other side completely. And then you come back to where you started, and you have maybe to try and adjust with the new realities of after being called chairman and people pressing the lift for you and holding the door open for you and giving you a vehicle and all those things. You'll tell us about that. But I want to start on the rule of law and what we are seeing currently in the country. The day before yesterday, Monday night, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, it's a constitutional commission, reported to us that 39 people had died since these protests began. 361 had been injured. 627 had been arrested, and those that had been abducted or had just disappeared and not communicating with their family members, 32. And most of these are attributed to police. IPOA is the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. Let's start from, why is it called policing oversight and not police oversight?
Primarily because the role of IPOA as set under our constitutional dispensation was to ensure that there's oversight over all matters policing. Because remember, there are times that it's not just the police who are undertaking police duties. For instance, recently you saw KDF being brought in. There are times, and it's allowed within the law, especially during the elections, where even KWS, even Forest Service, they're also embedded with the police, to provide adequate resourcing on matters policing. That's why it's at that time, when they are given police powers, they become also police, which is why it's about oversighting policing to ensure that there are no human rights abuses. And the IPOA was meant to have adequate capacity to ensure that at any given time, even like, for instance, now during the demonstrations, and we used to do that when I was at IPOA, as the demonstration is being carried out, you're supposed to have inspectors who are accompanying police real time, and you're able to even take pictures, even videography, and ensure that you are seeing real time how the police are conducting themselves, that you're not firefighting looking for evidence later. So policing goes beyond being reactive, but also proactively ensuring that the processes and how police are supposed to conduct themselves and how they are supposed to carry out their duty is in strict compliance with the law.
Whose rights are you safeguarding, the public or the police?
It is the rights of the public, because at the end of the day, it's holding police to account. The whole idea about IPOA is to hold the police to account, understanding that you've given them very vast powers, which includes not only arresting but also they could also take life. Remember, police are the people who have the monopoly of violence.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are allowed to carry firearms, and they can always use them against the public. But they can't just use it in a reckless manner. It has to be in strict compliance with the law. And in fact, what you'll notice that, and I must also state, Eric, that I am actually the one who led the team that drafted the current police laws. And there's a Schedule 6 that we drafted that is very strict about how police are supposed to use their firearms, or even how they are supposed to arrest. And there are steps. If you look at that Schedule 6, there are clear steps. And these steps also include involvement of the superior officer, the commander, because police even when they're in the field, they have a commander. They have somebody, a specific officer who is supposed to be in charge of them, because police act on command and control at any given time. There's the issue of individual responsibility. In fact, the law is very clear that a police officer cannot obey unlawful order. And the commander or the superior officer at any given time is supposed to ensure that in the event there's the use even of discharge of a bullet, they are supposed to take custody of that evidence and inform IPOA immediately. Within 24 hours, even do it in writing, including indicating anybody who has been injured, and even provide medical assistance. And there are steps, like I said, before you even discharge that firearm.
Sorry. Can I just take you back just a little bit? So we're talking about discharging a firearm in whatever circumstance.
In whatever circumstances.
So whether it is going after a criminal that is known,
yes,
or whether it is like we saw during protests.
Absolutely.
If a firearm is discharged for whatever reason, the procedure is that you report the circumstances under which the firearm was discharged and every other detail. Is that
absolutely? And you see, these requirements are couched in mandatory terms.
Okay.
So it's not like there's a discretion on the police officer when to report and when not to report.
Okay.
And what is supposed to happen is that they're supposed to inform IPOA immediately by whatever means necessary. Then within 24 hours, follow it up in writing. It's a mandatory requirement. So to me, the question then that needs to be asked is why these steps are not being taken, and why IPOA itself is not enforcing it. Because failing to do that is an offense. It's an offense. And in fact, the way the laws were crafted was to make sure that this offense becomes an offense that is personal to the commander of the time, and even also the police officer. Because there was a realization that these regulations were necessary, the schedule was necessary, because of our history. The history had been very bad. But having said that, what I would also say is that my experience with the police is that it's largely dependent on the leadership at any given time. If you have a rogue police at the leadership level, it's always said that the tone will always be set from the top. It has a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
Then added to that is my experience that the politicians have completely refused to let the police be independent. They may say that the police are independent, but in actual fact, it is not what they say that really matters. A lot of times we say that, it's Ralph Waldo Emerson who say that your actions speak so loudly that I cannot hear what you are saying. So you find that politicians will say the police are independent, but behind the scenes, they are the ones actually who constantly interfere with them. And it's politicians at all levels. It's not just, at the very highest level. You find that even at the county level, whether it's the governors, whether it's the MPs, that's where you find that even people who are not police, they are being accompanied by police and they're issuing orders, they're even being saluted. The level of indiscipline is so high that the police are not left to do their work correctly. And you'll find that when there's that interference, even the crooked police, because they are being given protection by the political leadership at the time, they cease to become professional. So, yet our constitution is very clear that we have to have an independent police. So we have a constitution that is saying one thing, so there's constitutional imperatives, but there's no constitutionalism in terms of the application of that constitution. And therein lies the problem, and we have to be very consistent as a public in demanding that the police must be completely independent. Then we hold them to account.
Mashari, what would an independent police service look like? How would it operate for us to know, okay, here actually they are independent in word, in deed? How?
I would compare this, to answer your question, I'd look at London Metropolitan Police, because I recall that we studied extensively, even when I was in IPOA, the London Metropolitan Police. And we went back to the history. There's somebody called Sir Robert Peel who set up the London Metropolitan Police in 1829. And what they did is that they came up with core ideals. They had 3 core ideals and 9 principles. But all of them related to the issue of the public, policing with the consent of the public, where they were able to demonstrate that for you as police to succeed, you must get the consent of the public, because the public don't believe in you and they don't consent to being policed by you. It doesn't matter what you do. But again, for that to happen, the public must have confidence. They must see you to be independent, not just in word, but in how you conduct your affairs. They must be very clear that you are policing with the communities. So the relationship must be one that is of mutual respect, where they can see that you are there for them and not against them. So that speaks to exactly what you are saying, that for the public, it is not a question of the police saying that we are independent. The public must see it, because public is not stupid. They'll be able to see when you are being directed from elsewhere. They'll be able to see your conduct. They'll be able to see when you are for them and when you are against them. And you see, it is not correct to say that in Kenya, the public is against the police. It's not true. In fact, a lot of times you find that in spite of the numerous infractions by the police, the public largely will always side with the police, especially when the police are under attack. And even we saw in videos where you see police officers are fighting the public, even in demonstrations. I saw one video where a police officer fell from a truck, but you found the public running and going to help that police officer. Yet that police officer is from attacking the public. So public understand that they need the police for their own security. The problem is that a lot of times the police will not reciprocate. But I'll also tell you, because I'm one person who has interacted with the police a lot for a long time. I started interacting with the police from 2008 after the post-election violence, because I was part of the team that was in the National Task Force on Police Reforms. A lot of police officers are actually decent human beings. What happens, and this is something that we must deal with finality, is that you have these small units that keep being created that you do not know who they answer to, where they take their directions from, and a lot of time they are not part of the regular police. So even as the police are policing in the streets, even when they are dealing with the demonstrators, you will find some other fellows who are part of another unit who are from nowhere, who will come, shoot and leave, and you don't know who they are. Because you'll even see, and you see now, it's even bad now because, today, there's so much that is happening in the social media. People have phones where they can take pictures. You have also, and you see people who are not even identifying themselves. And you see it's a requirement, it's a legal requirement that a police officer must have a name tag. It's a legal requirement.
Whether they are in civilian wear or
they must have, it's a mandatory requirement. And again, the reason why that requirement was put was to avoid a situation whereby you have people whom you do not know who come and misbehave, where they live and take lives, or cause a serious injury on person. You can identify them. And in fact, the requirement that somebody must have a name tag is one that must be enforced by the superior officer at the time. Again,
are they practical, some of these things, though?
They are practical, example, because it happens in other jurisdictions.
When police are conducting these very, serious operations, like, the anti-terror police unit, and you see them completely covered up, right? Because they are protecting themselves, because you know that if these terrorists know that you're the one who actually was involved in arresting so they may target you individually as a person.
That's a different situation.
I see, like, that's what, but you're saying all police officers are supposed to be having a name tag at all times. But
no, I was referring to when there's picketing, demonstration, and that kind of thing. I was not referring to those kind of special operations. Because, this schedule is very specific, because remember this Article 37, which provides for the right to picket, a right to demonstrate, present, make presentations to public, authorities. So, right to picket, a police officer cannot claim that that's a special operation that you require to disguise yourself, because you are dealing with the members of the public, at that particular time. So, but you see, you've seen even in the recent occurrences where you're seeing people who are coming, you can't even differentiate between a goon and a police officer.
Fully covered up.
So, I mean, it simply doesn't make any sense. So, to me, it's a question of the refusal by the police also, and not all the police, by their leadership to be professional.
You know, I want to hear whether in your time at IPOA, or even after, because you still interact with the news and you can see whether we have seen instances where IPOA has taken action on such, where police officers, like we've seen in those videos, people in, what color was that vehicle? The pickup?
Red.
And then they come out and they're completely covered and they are behaving like they're police officers. Some of them are carrying firearms. They come and they are involved in this operation and they leave. Are there instances where IPOA has actually followed up and taken action against the officers themselves and their superior?
At least in the IPOA that I served, such things never happened. We never even allowed it anyway. Because what we used to do is that during the demonstrations, we had set up a team that would also be embedded in terms of also carrying out the inspections. And we were very firm and very tough. Because we had even senior police officers, charged in court, jailed. In fact, we even had an OCS even sentenced to death for killing, a member of the public. So, have been taken aback also as a chair. And I think what I'll say is this, Eric. The first commissions and authority that were set up under the Constitution of 2010, they were fairly strong. I think we had come out, there was a lot of excitement and processes were used in terms even of how we, people were recruited and appointed and all that. And I think, and you recall that was soon after, it was during the tail end of Kibaki's leadership. And to be fair to President Kibaki, he allowed institutions to function. And there was a reasonable measure of independence. Because even the time when Kibaki was the president, I don't even recall any time, any interference at all from the leadership then with our work. And people were able to operate. And any person who served in the commissions then will tell you the same story, that things were allowed to function. And with that, there was the ability of personnel to do their work and discharge their obligations correctly. But this Huruto government, once they came in, I think to their mind, it was they were uncomfortable with independent institutions. And what they did is that as the terms of the various commissions came to an end, the kind of people who started now being populated within these commissions were failed politicians, were people, some of them even of dubious character, people who really had no sense of what constitutionalism is all about. And you'll see that a lot of commissions actually have...
So they've been watered down.
They've completely been watered down. Sometimes you don't even understand what they do. And to me, because I recall that even after we left IPOA, the new team, what they did, that they started even fighting with the secretariat, the management team. There were it was in public domain, where there were a lot of fights, resources now being deployed, not in the core mandate of the institution, and things started going wrong. But I do not want to get into the details of that, because that's a story that seems to have, to have cut across against, most of the constitution. But if we had stuck to the way these institutions were set up to ensure that the mandate is, implemented correctly without interference, and you have people of high caliber in terms even of credibility, would have been able to go very far. So, to answer your question, I see failure of the institutions in ensuring that there's professionalism, because the purpose for which these institutions were set up was primarily to ensure that we were to have a clean break with the past.
Let's take a break. 26 minutes to 8. Macharia Njeru was the founding chairman of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. He has also served most recently as the vice chairman of the Judicial Service Commission. We are looking at these protests and what we've seen, the rule of law and the application of the same in the protests, in the arrests, in the abductions, in the shooting to death, in the use of force and tear gas of the protesters, in the prosecution of the same, and how the judiciary is also responding and reacting to the same. All those is our conversation. Back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
It's a bit of a sunny morning in Nairobi, 12 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and highs of 27 in a mostly sunny Nakuru at 13. It's 13 and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 24, while Eldoret at 13 is sunny, going to highs of 23. Mombasa 23, cloudy, highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 29 as well in a mostly sunny Malindi at 24. It's 20 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 28 in a sunny Kakamega at 17. We're looking into a partly sunny Kampala at 20, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam where it is sunny at 23. Johannesburg this morning is clear at 10, highs of 20, and Mogadishu at 26 is sunny with highs of 30. Addis Ababa at 14 is cloudy with highs of 20 and lows of 11, while it's raining heavily in Lagos at 26. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 25. It's clear at 22 in Kinshasa, highs of 31 and lows of 21. It's extremely busy on the Eastern Bypass this morning as you're trying to get then through towards Outer Ring. And then there's the inbound traffic that's going to go all the way through towards North Airport Road out towards Cabanas. And there is some traffic then coming in on Mombasa Road, then approaching Cabanas. So that's very busy. Also then as we approach Uhuru Highway, getting out towards the CBD, we're seeing some traffic. Outer Ring is also busy, not to forget that. Coming out the other side of the Thika Superhighway, traffic is coming in hot on Outer Ring, and it's touching on the Thika Superhighway, and it's going to trail all the way through towards the Pangani Underpass. So there's that. On the other side of things, Ngong Road started off busy coming in from Naivasha Road, and we'll see some traffic then trickle into the city slowly. And then on the Uhuru Highway, we're going to see at the different junctions that there is some traffic. All right, let's see what happens as we get into traffic hour from now. And let's talk and share SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right. 23 minutes to 8. Our conversation continues, and the Euro 2024 continues as well in Germany. And, Showmax is telling you can watch all these matches.
Yes, you can.
We're getting into the quarterfinals and then the semis and the final.
Some fantastic matches yesterday. The Netherlands played a fantastic match against Romania last night and won 3-0. It was great to see and great to watch. Turkey also won last night in their match, 1-0. And again, great to watch live. And you can too, 500 shillings. And you can watch the Euros live and, do what we're doing right now. Have some access to fan content and analysis of the games and things like that.
Yep.
It's on Africa's upgraded streaming platform. It's Showmax. Download the app on your Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Register, pay, and watch.
Enjoy. Mashere Njero, former chair of IPOA and former vice chair of the Judicial Service Commission, is our guest city. As we went to the break, you heard what Mashere was saying. He sounds like, he's saying these institutions are by and by getting weakened. And so they are not delivering on what is the ideal form of delivery.
He has had a front row seat in these matters, and he speaks of what he knows. But it raises as you were speaking, it raised certain questions in my mind. Loosely asked, how exactly do we as citizens perceive democracy to mean? I'm going to ask, I'm going to explain why I asked the question. Are we willing to take the position that democracy allows us to question authority, not defy, question, ask directly for answers from authority? Or do we understand democracy to mean that once somebody is in authority, our job is to obey, to acquiesce, to be in a position where we take instructions and simply accept that, as we say in Kiswahili, mkubwa amesema? Because when I look at the way we are compliant when it comes to things which are actually wrong, we find reason to accommodate it, then we find reason to justify it, then we find reason to live with it. Now, This younger generation are telling us they're not willing to do that. That is before they were clearly infiltrated. They were telling us they're not willing to do that. They are not putting up with it anymore. And that's why fingers were being pointed at their parents and saying it is you people who brought this about. As someone who's been in the position that you've been, do you really think that even when we create independent institutions, that those who head them understand that independence means you can talk to the authority above you and say, excuse me, these are the rules by which we are supposed to conduct our business? Or is our natural knee-jerk reaction to simply comply?
You raise a very critical issue that I resonate with, because in the institution that I've served, many a times I've actually been called a renegade, because I agree with you 100%. And for your information, I identify fully with the concerns of the Gen Zs, because for them, they've seen the abuse of power, they've seen the behavior on the part of the government institutions. And when I say government institutions, I mean all the three arms of government, because all of them are guilty. There's no, of course, executive and legislature, rank higher in terms of, misbehavior. But all the three arms of government must also share blame somewhat. Because, before I joined the government institutions, and I served in them for 16 years, but largely I was in private sector. I served in the banking sector, in the boards of banks, and I even chaired one in Rwanda, another in Uganda. But what I consistently noted in government institutions is that a lot of times the public interest is secondary. It becomes personal private interest. And that's why you are, Eric, you are talking about where people get into government position, the first thing they think is that you should get a big car, should have bodyguards who are opening doors for you, you should be recognized, you should have, even when you are going through the airport, I see this strange behavior that you must have people carrying your bags, you must have somebody taking you through the immigration. Yet in private sector, like in the banks where I served in the board, you find a CEO who is running a multi-billion, enterprise. They carry their bag, they carry their passport. They'll be in the plane in an economy class, except where it's above 8 hours.
And but they arrive alive.
And they are doing serious business. In fact, they're bringing real value to the country, even in terms of the taxes that those institutions are remitting. But you find here a small person who is really a nobody becomes a commissioner, and now they think that, they are everything, So it is the attitude of somebody who becomes, say, like, a cabinet secretary. They all of a sudden become a god, or somebody who has just become a PS. So the attitude is so bad. And you see, I've interacted also heavily with, people from other countries who are in senior government positions. In fact, I remember when I used to be in Nepal, I used to relate a lot with Robert Godek, the then ambassador. And you tell me that he doesn't understand the behavior of people who are in public service here. Because, one, they don't keep time. Secondly, they believe that, that the sense of entitlement, they must have these big cars. Go to a country like Rwanda here, where people, even in senior position, they drive themselves, Let me tell you, even we must ask ourselves why we're even having these issues with our budgetary constraints. It's all about waste. If you ask me, there's so much, we don't even need to overtax people. If you just cut down on expenditure, and I'm speaking from personal experience as somebody who was related with government institutions for 16 years, where I saw a lot of waste real time. Like, what sense does it make to have so many vehicles, Prados and all that, If you go for a meeting like here in Naivasha and you see when government institutions are meeting, you go to a parking, you see all these brand new Prados, each costing 10, 15, 20 million shillings, with all these officers. Do we really need it for a poor country like ours? It doesn't make any sense. You see even the domestic travel, and a lot of it is unnecessary, because a lot of work that people do in government institutions, that people will travel to Mombasa, spend a week there, go to Naivasha, go to Kisumu. The truth of the matter is, it's all about per diems and daily subsistence allowance. That's all they are looking for. It's all about that the work cannot be done in the boardroom.
It's the extra cash.
It's the extra cash. And that's why you'll find that most of them, what they'll do, if you're earning a salary of 100,000, you'll be surprised that when they put together the per diems and the DSAs, it comes to 1 million shillings a month. So why would that happen? I was in a bank for 8 years. There's no time we were ever in any retreat. And the bank was performing
and
just
it was profitable.
well.
It didn't fall.
Yeah, it didn't fall. In fact, it performed.
Why it was profitable.
Exactly.
Yeah, but these people, they just refuse to work from their boardrooms. They'll talk about training. They'll travel abroad for things that are called training. And when you look at the training that they're traveling for, it's not that a training that cannot be done here. It can be done virtually. It can be done by institutions here. But again, it's about cash. Because the moment that person travels, you saw the other day about an official of county government in some ongoing case who was saying that even as he was traveling, he didn't even know why he was traveling, and he was paid per diem of 700,000. Commissions are even worse, I can tell you. You'll find that somebody is working and coming back with millions in their pocket with these per diems. It is annoying.
Just from one trip.
Yes, it's annoying because, see, people have no medicine in the hospitals. People are suffering. And people here are busy competing on who will travel so that they can make money. It is evil. And it's a problem, I can tell you, that is cut across all the 3 government institutions. I mean, all the 3 arms of government. All of them, they behave. Parliament even worse.
So let's look at a situation here, Mashari, because the thing that you're talking about now, because even as we start the conversation with police, then it is replete across, just like you have said.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I go back to the example that you gave about when a policeman or a woman, an officer, discharges a weapon, and that there's a report that's supposed to be made. So it's a form of practice. There is a demand upon you to do a certain thing after an action. And that is what is in the system. But it's not done because it's not insisted upon from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Is there a case to be made for the notion that you cannot expect people to just do the right thing? You have to enforce it. It's like rote learning in school. I used to wonder, why on earth do these teachers insist that you're going to talk about the number 1 for the next 3 months for these 6-year-olds? And they say, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Because if I leave you to your own wills, you will not. So I'm going to insist that we do 1, 2, 3 until it becomes a force of habit. Then you become habitual in doing the right thing. So is there a case to be made for the insistence on this practice across board? And then we see that it becomes second skin, it becomes second nature because it has been insisted upon from the beginning.
I agree with you. Save to add that the tone must be set from the top. You see, it has to start, for me, it's very easy to deal with this issue starting with the president himself, because ultimately he's the head of state. If you don't set that tone from the top, because see, the mistake that we all make at all given time is that we'll say one thing and do the other. For instance, like in our current situation, there must be clear directions from the head of state where we say that it cannot be business as usual. Because even as Gen Zs are complaining, they are complaining because of these habits that they've continued to see, where they are seeing all these bad manners and nobody is doing anything about it. For instance, can we start by saying that we are freezing international travel for everybody in all the institutions, all of them? Can we start by saying that we are freezing even the domestic travel? Because even this domestic travel themselves, except for security agencies, because those must travel. You can't tell a police officer not travel when they're doing investigations. The institutions like EACC, their core mandate is to investigate, they must travel to. But there are most of these other institutions, they can do their work from the boardroom so that we can save all this money. Can we insist that we're not going to allow people to be buying all these vehicles? People can even self-drive. People are paid commuter allowance. Drive yourself. You don't have to have, all these vehicles that are costing us billions, billions of shillings. So this kind of profligacy, we cut it down, and it's possible to enforce it, but it must start from the top. Because you see, if you say that do this, but you're not, the rest of you do it, but you're not doing it yourself, therein lies a problem. why I was talking about, for instance, I was giving you a case, an example of a parliament. I recall in the institution that I served, they would tell you that if we are discussing your budget, we can't discuss it from Nairobi. You must make sure we discuss it from Mombasa. So that now, and when you are going to Mombasa to discuss it from there, they insist that you make sure that you also bring us per diem. They are being paid by their commission, and your institution must also pay them. So you can see this behavior. It is something that is cutting across, but it is something that is preventable. It can be stopped. Because these Gen Zs, the reason why they are complaining, they are seeing all these things. I just came from a business trip abroad last Saturday. And the taxi guy who was carrying me, he's a stranger to me. He complained from the airport up to the time when he dropped me home. And he was saying, we see these people coming here with the motorcades. They are misusing our resources. And we are suffering. We see them, So you can see people complain, and they are seeing these things. We should not take it casually. People complain. They know that they are suffering, and you are taking advantage of them.
Is it possible, Macharia, that even with the goodwill and the willingness of those in positions of leadership to do something, then you're also captive because of other factors? There's the politics, there's everything else. Because you see, you could say that as the chairman of IPOA, and you had a secretariat, and the head of the secretariat had the AIE, was the AIE holder, you could influence that person to say, let's not spend on these other extras. But there would be people who say, look, this is what is expected. This is what we have to do. So you ended up still spending money, despite the fact that you're looking at it and feeling, this is wrong.
But by the way, one thing I can tell you, Eric, and this is a matter that is known by all those who interacted with the IPOA that I led. We were very clear, like for instance, for us, even as the chair, I didn't have a vehicle. I was entitled to a vehicle, but we said we are not going to have a vehicle for our chair, we're not going to have a vehicle for the commissioners who are we said we are going to have vehicles in the pool that will be accessible to everybody, including our investigators. Because our core mandate was to investigate complaints. So that's where we deployed our resources. And so that's what I'm saying about setting the tone from the top. We are very clear. And even for us, even I as the chair, whenever I would be given transport, it is during the official working hours when I'm being dropped in a work-related issue, then dropped back to where my personal vehicle is, and I drive myself home. It is all about setting a culture in an institution. And it is possible. There's nothing, I do not believe there's anything about being held captive. As a leader, you are determined to ensure the right thing is done, it will be done. And in fact, I remember during our time, we are never in the qualified audited accounts, through and through. In fact, the parliament kept understanding our work, and our budget kept going up. By the time I left, we started with a budget of 150 million. By the time I left, we had a budget of a billion shillings, because our work, we were doing the correct work that went to the core mandate. But now you see the problem is that if the people who are manning the institution, they have self-interest. They themselves, see what will usually happen is that the commissioners or the people who are responsible for running an institution, if they are rogue themselves, the secretariat will also take advantage, because they'll say that let's all eat together. As you are budgeting for this, let's also budget together. You budget for your misbehavior, and they also budget for theirs. So the tone, I believe the tone must always be set from the top, and that also goes to the government itself, which is why I'm emphasizing that it is incumbent upon the head of state to set the tone from the top and say, this is what we'll do, but you must also do it yourself.
Machara, is it possible that we are at a place where there are individuals, we can argue, do not know what is right, and so they cannot do it?
You see,
or the interpretation of what is right is
in any corporate setup, even, and this is something that is normally applied a lot in the private sector. We always told time and again that the success or failure of an institution will largely depend on the quality of the human capital within the institution. The quality matters because it is the people who do the doing. Never forget that. It doesn't matter what kind of policies you have. It doesn't matter what are the intentions. Ultimately, it boils down to the quality of the people. The reason why this show is successful is because of the quality of the people. Bring in people who have poor quality, the show will not pass the muster. So even in leadership, as a leader, if you do not have people of quality, people of integrity, people who are visionary, because remember, leadership is about being a visionary, it's about inspiring people. It's about attracting confidence of the people. I can tell you for a fact, and Eric, and I'm sure you know that you cannot rule by decree or by directing. It's a question of inspiring confidence, being able to carry people along with you so that they can believe in the cause. And then they'll be able to all walk with you and do the doing. So, to me, it is incumbent upon the leaders at all levels, ensure you surround yourself with the right people. And the reason why you find that sometimes in our country things will go wrong, you look at the cabinet and you look at the people and you wonder whether they have any idea of what they are doing. People have no confidence in them. You communicate with the person and you'll see the person really has no idea. They cannot be able to have an idea. They cannot conceptualize what are the challenges, what is the strategic vision, how you are supposed to implement that, strategy. They do not even have a large picture, the bigger picture. Because see, if you ask me today, even this finance bill, why do you have to get here? Surely anybody looking at that finance bill could see it's wrong. You can't have everybody complaining about the entire business community saying this thing is going to make our economy contract. People are saying that if you do this, it's going to cause a lot of socio-economic challenges. Surely a cabinet is like a board of a corporate setup.
Yeah.
So if these people cannot be able to sit down and see through that, if you look at the larger picture, this thing is going to cause problems, then we have a bigger problem. We have a very big problem.
So if the tone is not set from the top in the things that we're looking at now, from the examples that you've given, just looking at things across board, if the tone is not set from the top in the direction in which things ought to go, then the question remains, then what do you do? Do you wait until that term is over? Because again, this then hinges greatly on an individual and their character. So we're looking at a softer side. It's not the brick and mortar in terms of signing documents and giving edicts. It comes from a person's character and who this individual is. How do you force that tone to be set?
You see, at the end of the day, being a democracy, that's where you find that people will complain. And let's also be honest with ourselves that the pressure also, particularly from the Gen Z, it has worked to a large extent because the finance bill is not there. So the pressure has to continue, of course, within the rule of law. Right. Because again, you do not want a country that is falling into chaos, anarchy. It's not good for us. And we also have a government. We must also recognize that, and it's not something that you can run away. And it's also a government that was elected by the people. Again, we can't run away from that because even we ourselves are the people. We must question ourselves. How do we elect? But having said that, to me, the pressure has to continue. And in fact, we have to now, when it comes now to the next bill or looking at whatever it is, the bill that they bring, we must look at it critically. And members of parliament must also, and all those at the leadership level, must be able to recognize, in fact, the reason why they are being beaten up, and I'm not supporting that they be beaten up, but they must also ask themselves, why is it that people are losing respect for you? It's because you're not listening to them. Because it cannot be that you are being told something and members of the public are telling you that this is the public participation. It is not just a tick a box, kind of a situation. It's not being done for the sake of doing it. It's because you must listen to the people, understand what are their wishes, what are their aspirations, and obey it. I open my remarks by saying that these positions, we hold them in trust. All of us, at any given level. The moment you choose to be a public servant, you must remain a public servant answerable to the people that you work for. If you want to answer to yourself, go to private sector. Nobody will ask you about what to do with your business as long as, of course, you comply with the law. So at the end of the day, it's incumbent upon this discourse that we've started as a country, where we now say that as a people, we are not prepared to accept misbehavior, we'll hold it to account, must continue. I was being told by one of the guards this morning that they're happy that they are not seeing these fellows driving, on the roads and removing them with all these banderas and all that. It's a good thing because these people can see that if you continue misbehaving, we take, we don't take it kindly. So we are on the right track, I would say, as a country, and the pressure must continue, but within the law.
Asante sana. Basharia has been our guest. He is a former founding chairman of IPOA, and he was a former vice chairman of the Judicial Service Commission. Basharia Njero, have a lovely day. Keep it here for more. It's 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Spice up your life.
Ubaga. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has released facial images of 38 individuals suspected of engaging in acts of lawlessness during the anti-finance bill protests. The DCI have asked members of the public to channel information that could help lead to their arrest via the Fichua Kwa DCI hotline number or via the police hotline number. The protests held from Tuesday last week have witnessed the worst acts of vandalism, muggings and torching of business premises and vehicles in major towns like Nairobi, Mombasa and Kisumu being burnt down. The Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union doctors have suspended the medical services they were offering to anti-finance bill protesters. Led by doctors Austin Omondi and Salim Ishmael, they say the move was necessitated after they realized the protests have taken a different turn and those involved are now robbing Kenyans and destroying public property. They further said that their lives had also been endangered, with Austin having been released after 2 weeks of torture. This event comes as ODM says that 50 abducted Kenyans are still missing.
As we speak, the reports are that upwards of 50 individuals have been illegally abducted and their whereabouts remain unknown. To make it worse, it is clear that no one in government is ready to take responsibility, to render an apology or to make amends.
A 29-year-old man has been charged before an Eldoret court for stealing goods worth 37 million shillings from a popular club in the town during the anti-finance bill protests. Jonathan Paul Mutua denied 2 counts of breaking into a building, committing a felony and handling stolen goods. Mutua and the company of others still at large broke into the club and stole alcohol, electronics, sound systems, utensils, gas cylinders, chairs and food items, all valued at more than 37 million shillings. He has, however, been released on a 10 million shillings bond with 2 sureties. 2 people have been charged with burning of the Kikuyu NGCDF office during the finance bill protests. Naftali Njama and Joseph Waweru appeared before Senior Principal Magistrate Peter Owoko and denied the charges. The charge sheet read that on June 25th, with others not before court, willfully and unlawfully set on fire Kikuyu National Government Constituency Development Fund offices that are valued at 20 million shillings. They were released on a cash bail of 200,000 shillings each or a surety bond of 1 million shillings each, pending the pre-trial conference next week with the case set for October 1st. Human rights activists in Western Region have called on the government to increase the budgetary allocation of the judiciary. Led by human rights advocate Immaculate Shamala and Belinda Undisa, they say that this will speed up justice for gender-based violence cases.
Tunaomba hivi kama sisi mashirika zisizo za kiserikali na pia wanaharakati wa haki za kibinadamu na jinsia, ni kwamba bajeti ya mahakama haswa swala la dhulma za kijinsia, hiyo bajeti iwe a special kitty for gender based violence iwekwe katika mahakama.
Ningependekeza sana kama shirika na pia jamii ya huku Malaba Mateso kwamba serikali inapotenga bajeti iweze kuongeza bajeti ya koti.
And finally, Kakamega County Woman Representative Elsie Muhanda has urged youth to start holding the county government accountable for its services rendered to residents. Speaking in Lurambi, Muhanda further supported the Gen Z protest that has put the government under pressure to fulfill its promises to Kenyans.
Nikapiga no. Mwananchi anaumia, gharama ya maisha imeenda juu. Ndio nikasema lazima nisimame na Masita na Paulina. Mimi nashukuru watoto wetu. Walangua Gen Z tulikuwa tunanungunika, lakini wametoka. Sisi tunasema pole kwa zile familia ya si waliwacha. Ama Gen Z pia mkiwa Kakamega County pia muangalie county kuna nini. Si county imepata pesa 17 billion. Gen Z mkiwa hapa mchunguzi sisi wote viongozi.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
All right, we are into traffic hour this morning, and it's heavy on the Thika Superhighway. It's coming in from Garden City and then through towards the Pangani Tunnel, out towards Muranga Road, and then you get to the roundabout, the Globe Cinema roundabout. That is very busy this morning. It's also starting to build up on Kiambu Road. Coming into the city from Ngong Road is busy as well, and also on Wayaki Way. Let's take a quick look at the CBD, and that's what's going to clog up some. Jogo Road, very busy. It's taking in traffic from Manyanja Road, which crosses over Outer Ring onto Jogo Road, and then towards Landis, out towards Haile Selassie. Some of the traffic is just so bad that it's spilling over from Lusaka Road. So all of this is one to watch as you try to traverse the city today. Langata Road is also busy coming in from the junction of the Ulinzi Sports Complex, out then towards Uhuru Gardens, and then as you approach Wilson. This morning, that is very busy. Raila Odinga Way is taking some traffic going out towards Community. So everywhere you look this morning, there is some traffic. Let's see what happens as we get through traffic hour. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 8. How are you doing? Welcome to the third of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In this hour, we're going to talk about health and health matters. But before we talk about health, let's talk about entertainment and football. Euro 2024 is happening.
It is.
Turkey won 2-1.
Yes, it was 2-1, not 1-0. So technically 1-0.
It's 1,
It's 1-0. But 2-1, okay. So Turkey won last night, as did the English.
It's Turkey a thing of yours, man.
It's Turkey.
Turkey. Turkey won
2-1. And the English boys won 3-0. Romania put up a spirited fight, but at the end of the day, somebody had to bow out, right? And we're getting into the last stages of this competition, and it's heating up. Now, if you want to watch each second of this scintillating action on your phone, wherever you are, you can do that. How can you do that? www.showmax.com. It's the upgraded streaming platform for Africa, and you can watch all of these matches on your mobile phone live in HD.
Like that.
I'm telling you.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. Our health conversation starts from just the very basic principle. Universal health coverage. Okay? Universal health coverage is where you know that you can access a health facility and access health services affordably and within the shortest distance for you and the best quality. Okay? According to Article 43 of the Constitution. Now, health services are provided by government, by private sector, by faith-based organizations, and in that order, government is a lower percentage. If you combine the other two, a higher percentage. Let's talk about one of the private sector institutions, Aga Khan University Hospital.
Yes.
They are here in Parklands. They have satellite facilities, and they have a new satellite facility.
Yes, they do.
Where?
It's in Roysambu, and it's called Roysambu Specialty Care Center. It's right at Jewel Plaza, and they said, you know what, this very thing that you're talking about, let's bring healthcare and medical facilities to you. You shouldn't have to travel very far. You should be able to access health facilities, medical facilities around where you work and where you live.
Yes.
So they've established this center where you can get all the services that you might be looking for. Dialysis is available, chemotherapy is available, general surgery is available, things like endoscopy available, all given by specialists that are on board, surgeons, oncologists, gastroenterologists, all of these guys right there at the center every day, all day. You can actually get you can get world-class care here and now at the center.
Okay. Universal health coverage also has another aspect of health financing. One of the things of health financing is insurance. Jubilee Health Insurance is telling you we have very many products that are available. One of the products that they're telling us to tell you about today is one called the Micro Cover, the Group Micro Cover. It's perfect for chamas or small groups. This one, if you are 10 of you and you're in a chama, you can actually go and take a group cover. The 10 of you, right? Mm-hmm. Jubilee Health Insurance. It offers comprehensive coverage for pre-existing and chronic conditions. You get free telemedicine services, local emergency road evacuation, ensuring peace of mind for everyone in that group. It's a fantastic option for groups looking to secure their health together. Also, they tell you with this one, you do not have to think about what you owe. It gives you the cover for pre-existing and chronic conditions. Talk to them. Go to their website, jubileeinsurance.com, or text health and send that to 40643. Keep your group healthy and secure with Jubilee. Why we're talking about health is because the President's advisor on health financing is our next guest. Dr. Daniel Mwai is in the studio. Dr. Harry, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you back in the Situation Room on the hot seat.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be back.
The last time you were here, it was before the laws had been passed on now giving us that roadmap to UHC. We have to talk about now all those things and what has happened since then, and what we now have called the Social Health Authority that is supposed to be driving us towards Nirvana. You'll tell us how that journey is going, but CT will welcome you with the day's proverb. This week, the proverbs are from
the Republic of Angola. Mm-hmm. What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog.
What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog. Dr. Mwai, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
I would begin from thinking that rain has more intensity than fog. Mm-hmm. So if, an issue has partially been, solved or provided a solution for, you need a higher, you need to go up. You cannot go from rain to fog. You cannot remove from rain to rain. So I would think that I would be up. And from where I look at it from, we have had our institution that have been trying to wet. We can only go up. And more so within the healthcare financing architecture. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So basically what we are saying here is if we look at SHA and NHIF,
yes,
SHA is rain, NHIF is fog. So we're moving from fog to rain. So we can be properly wet.
Correct.
I wonder.
Wow.
His interpretation is actually
very
appropriate.
Rich.
It's appropriate because he's given it context.
Yeah.
And it's good context. And since he's given it context, I have to ask, why do you say that? What are the reasons that you have for claiming that NHIF is fog, SHA, rain?
Thank you very much. I think I first want to highlight that when you look at the Social Health Authority, in there is a fund called the Social Health Insurance Fund, which is a complete upgrade of the National Hospital Insurance Fund, which became National Health Insurance Fund. Mm-hmm. So then you are moving from the fog, which we have, and fog also provides some wetness. We cannot say that it doesn't, but rain provide more. So in moving from the NHIF to SHA, SHA has more by far, because SHIF would actually be an upgrade of NHIF.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And then SHA now has the SHIF, it has the Primary Healthcare Fund, it has the Emergency Critical and
Chronic
Illness Fund.
Yes.
3 into 1. See, it is beating it from all sides, this rain on that side. However, Daktari, since the President launched our journey towards universal health coverage last year in Kericho, we've just been watching and hearing things unfolding. And the country was prepared to move into this transition at the beginning of this month. And then we hear, no, this has been pushed a little bit because, there are some things that are not aligned, this and the other. What is it that's not aligned?
Thank you very much, Latif. I think two things that I want to highlight. One is that this agenda on healthcare financing has not begun now. It's actually not even this government agenda, so to speak, in terms of originality. It started a long time ago with the declarations of through the WHO on the desire for countries to move towards universal health coverage. And we have tried several things, and you can the known one is the Giro Bill of around, I think, 2003, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And the Giro Bill then was trying to provide a legal framework to actually anchor this, financing architecture in a way that it is possible to get accountability. It's possible to drive the financing in a way that it accounts for a greater good for all. Now, from that, what has happened is that good things should take time to plan and to execute. More so if you have failed several times. And people would wonder, why has it taken long? One, it has taken long because we didn't have legal framework, which enables not only for us to push the light financing architecture, but also bring accountability to the same, and also stop, kind of inefficiencies that arise from the system that we have been learning under the fog system. So with that, it's what has made us take long. Now, when you look at the process of legislature, and also after the passing of the laws, then comes the regulations, which prescribes how will this be done. Now, the how also requires it to be organized in a way that you need to move to public participation, develop all those until you finalize with them. Now, that is what has been happening. On the other hand, there is money that is needed, because when we go to the model, you see this is not just a social health insurance issue or an insurance issue like in the past where we lost it, because at some point we almost thought healthcare financing is a social insurance issue only, and there is no other approach that is useful, and therefore UHC was reduced into financing. But UHC is bigger than financing, as you have put in your opening remarks, because there is access, there is quality, and there is also the issues of social protection, which are actually important in terms of people getting into poverty. Getting into poverty because of expenditure. So ideally, that is the architecture that we have been creating. You need to have a good system. The system needs to be robust. You need to allocate resources for the same. You need to look at how do you transition so that services are not disrupted. You need to see, to reanalyze each of the issues that had been raised within the panel of experts that developed the report on how to, on NHIF we want. Now, if you look at each of those, there is no principle which is aligned to WHO that we have not followed. So that's a process. And it's a project that this has taken a little bit long, but I think we have started with the registration, and that is a first step into the first fund.
So, Dr. Ari, from legislation, we saw the 4 bills that went through Parliament that were passed, and then there was the launch, because now we say that is the moment in which the President says, so now with the legislation in place, now we move towards implementation and realization. How long, ideally, should it have taken, or should we have been looking at to actually get to a level where we can say we are good to go? All those things that you're saying, the preparations, drafting the regulations, taking them through public participation, getting people to understand that these are the regulations, this is what it means, getting the other stakeholders, the service providers to understand and get on board, all the doctors and medical professionals to understand and get on board, getting the funds aligned and the budgetary allocations then set aside. You need a budget for the primary healthcare fund. You need a budget for the other emergency and critical illnesses fund. All those need to be put into place and factored in. You need to bring in the MPs on board so that they can approve the appropriation of these funds into it. How long should it have taken? Was it realistic for us to say that 8 months was good enough for us to go?
I would think that it would have taken probably 8 to 10, 12 months, so to speak. But we felt that we can, put all our hands together and push this. Have we missed the target? Yes, we have a little. But when you start, you move into implementation, you also discover that there are things that take longer. For instance, the long discussions with the providers. Because when you develop the benefit package, you need to take it to the public. After public, you come to the provider, because the providers that will be offering these benefits. And these providers are both public, private, and FBOs, faith-based, or churches or religious based facilities. So you need time to interrogate, to agree with them, to look at their cost structure, to look at your cost structure. Because at the core of why the NHIF got into issues is actually also the issues of costing of services, and that is what has been been done more correctly now and transparently. That's why they are being published into paper, so that each person see this is the benefit I am entitled to, and this is the cost of that benefit, so that I am clear. I don't have to wonder, what am I signing into? Because the more we become transparent in a population that ideally have people who can read and understand, then it becomes better for them to also, look for social accountability and also ask for their entitlement within the package.
What needed to happen to go from where things currently are with NHIF and then move over? And that was supposed to have happened essentially on the 1st of July. And now we're being told it will now come to place on the 1st of October. What needs to happen in order for that transition to take place?
Yeah, so the things that are taking place, the wheel has not stopped rotating because the date have passed. We have said that the first entry point is registration. And in that registration, that's when one give, we start getting members enroll into the new system. The second thing that is important is the publication of the benefits. So, and when I talk about the benefits, it's largely the tariffs to the benefits, because the benefits had already been published. So people would know what am I entitled to. What is coming out is the agreement of the tariffs for each of those benefits. So that is a process that ideally within 1 week or so will be done. The second thing that is paramount for the success of this financing architecture is actually the digital ecosystem. And in that digital ecosystem, one key thing that I want you to highlight, to understand, is that the biggest entry to fraud for the NHIF has been poor data that has been stored, where you find that, for instance, there is no single source of truth. So if I can be Daniel and can have another person's identity. Now, because of that, you find that you hear there are people, many cases of people who have been poorly identified. You find that Daniel was amputated on the leg, but when you come, I have the whole leg. So you find a lot of these challenges. Now, how do you deal with them? At the registration, there is linkage with the National Reference Bureau, where there is a registry that have kept your biometrics. So what we are doing is to just link you with your biometric. And therefore, you have one single source of truth instead of correcting fingerprints that ideally have been, polluted. So what we are doing is more verification, so that we link the unique identification of each of the persons. Now, that is the first point, where we want to say that we must identify a unique person who will be receiving their services, and therefore it is a person who will know that my, for instance, cover have been used today. And therefore, you also get issues of OTPs and ability to identify. So that is registration. And from there is the benefit. And then empowerment of facilities. In the past, we have had a lot of issues with choice of facilities. So you have to choose facilities to go and highlight, this is where I will be going. Now, where we are moving to is a very different environment altogether, where the Kenyan has power to choose to which facility to go. And when they go there, they know this is the facility I've gone, this is my card, which ideally will be your ID card anyway. And these are the benefits I'm entitled to. And this is the money that I will be paid for. Before you go, that information, you should have it. Now, this is a paradigm shift from what we have had. We have had a lot of darkness in what is covered and how it is covered.
No, Dr. Moi.
Thank you.
Do you think people understand all these things you're saying?
Now, within the same time you have asked, people need to be explained things in a way they can understand. And I do believe that, I listen to you every morning. Sometimes I listen to what you are very right on some issues. On others, I see there is an informational gap between what we are talking about or what need to be done and what is outside here. Now, I think we must appreciate the fact that communication is important. And we expect that we will be able to do civic education more. We'll be able to explain to the citizens what is needed. And we also explain to them why it is important to have a social insurance for our country and not have, fragmented schemes that we have had over the period of time.
When will this happen? This civic education that you speak of, understanding by the public in terms of why it's important for social health to be a component of their daily expenditure. When will this happen?
So there is an elaborate communication plan that is finalized. And I want to say that the ministry is leading in this on engagement. And we expect that from next week, actually, this is part of it. I mean, if you so speak, we have already started. But from next week, we'll see more of education across all medias, channels of media that are available for communication so that people understand. Away from many other, things that have been, been going on. One thing I want to highlight is that the health agenda has been crafted on solid principles that are globally acceptable. The technical teams have been on the works for quite some time. And therefore, sometimes technical things take long to be explained. But with a good elaborate plan on communication and educating, I'm sure that Kenyans are able to understand because everybody can get sick. And therefore, it's a problem that is common for rich, poor communities, either employed or non-employed. So it's something that people are willing to engage.
Okay. I like what you're saying. And yes, some of these things are difficult to understand. And actually, I'm one of those Kenyans who has difficulties understanding what was so bad about NHIF that we had to create something absolutely new. I am still puzzled to date because everything I've heard you say leads me to ask the question, okay, are we saying that everything that you are planning with SHA could not have been implemented under NHIF as just different aspects within NHIF, whether it's the critical care, whether it is the care that is being given at level 1 and 2, that these are things that could not have been provided for within the existing structure of NHIF. If we're talking about data collection, are we saying that the data that was collected by NHIF was done in a manner that could not be upgraded and that the systems that we speak of that are being implemented in SHA could not have been upgraded into NHIF? Is that what you're saying?
I am not saying that because I started by saying that NHIF is an upgrade of NHIF, unless you are talking about retaining the word NHIF. So we begin.
Actually, it's not so much retaining.
Very good. Now I will take you there.
Yes.
In a minute. So when you look at the healthcare financing architecture, you have what we call, insurance-based systems. For instance, social health insurance. A social health insurance is when you pool together, all of you, and you pay differently. But that pooling should be driven by ability to pay. So you should not have poor people contributing a higher proportion than the rich, or vice versa, or the poor the sick. The sick many times are our senior citizens, are the ones who have many chronic illnesses. They are ideally not supposed to contribute more, despite the fact that they'll use less. Now, NHIF was somewhere in between. Social insurance, not social, not private insurance. It's there in between because it was offering what we call managed schemes, 96 of them. All right. Now, when you have managed schemes,
what are those? Like teachers, police?
Yeah, you have a scheme. You have special group inside a whole scheme for everybody.
Okay.
So they are treated special inside the fund.
Social.
So that makes it a little bit tricky, because when they are able to advocate for themselves better, you know, like they can come to this table, they can speak where I'm speaking from. But the other, because they are in the same scheme with everybody else who cannot come here because of their socioeconomic status, because they are in rural settings, because ideally they are not on boardrooms. The others tend to be oppressed. Now, what are we saying? We are saying that before the eyes of the good Lord, we are all the same. We are Kenyans. We can have an insurance that equalizes all of us, but also enable everybody to claim benefits from the pool, so that nobody say, I don't use. So the first thing I wanted to say is that we had managed schemes in NHIF, and those managed schemes became a very big problem, because when you look at the expenditure was largely above the contribution for that cohort only, inside a pool that have other monies for people.
So they were getting money from other contributors.
Fantastic. Number one.
Okay.
So managed scheme was not a good thing, needed to be removed. Number two, and more importantly, is the fact that for largely middle class, they were unable to claim. So you are employed, you contribute, and you have a complementary insurance.
Yeah.
Now, because of that complementary insurance, when you go to hospital, your complementary insurance is charged.
Yeah.
Therefore, you still continue contributing in NHIF, but you don't
use
it. Now, the paradigm shift is that there is no, by the time you get your complementary insurance, it will be above your social insurance. That means it's adding some more above what the social insurance is providing.
So the first charge will be now the NHIF.
Fantastic. Okay. And if you remember why the NHIF was taken to court, is because of that call. Because it would have killed private insurances. Now, the first charge in this time is social health insurance. And if I, for reasons that I have a complementary insurance, and I go to a higher level facility that is expensive, and I want to live nicely in there, my social insurance will still pay the tariff. So not say that deliveries is at 32,000 also, and because I've gone to a high facility, then my complementary insurance is charged. No. The social insurance will pay the entitlement, which is at 32. Then the complementary will peak after that.
The others.
Now, the other thing is that largely, a social insurance is a contributory mechanism. It's a pooling of by people. And then they do strategic purchasing. Now, when we move to strategic purchasing, is away from passive. We have largely been a passive purchaser. Passive is just buying for buying. Now, when you are strategic, you need to start understanding where is the largest burden centered. What should be the cost of that burden? How much money do I need to cater for the burden? And then you check, is it possible to get that amount? So that you put your mouth and your actions together. Now, we had a lot of promises that were never actualized. Now, away from NHIF, this is actually determined based on the cost of care that people require. So the other thing that I wanted to highlight is that beside that shift, which is largely the upgrade of NHIF, there is a problem that we have had for a long time: coverage of emergency services. When you are covering for emergency, I mean, I may not have paid for a social insurance, but I will not apply when my motorbike will be hit by a vehicle. I mean, I have no precision to when that will happen. Now, when it is tied to an insurance, then it is not right. So the Chronic Illness Fund, which has emergency as a separate key component, is new, and it is not a social insurance. It need to be housed within an architecture which is not a social insurance, because it's exchequer funded. So what we are saying is that the same way when we mix oranges and apples, we'll have a problem. So the money is for emergency services, the package is defined. If you look at the regulations, and I really hope Kenyans take time when, they are relaxing actually, to look at the regulations and look at the benefits and the tariffs they are in for each of these components. And of course, the primary healthcare fund. People will not realize the importance of the primary healthcare fund until they remember that NHIF was not paying for services in lower level facilities. So, as you have mentioned, a clinic somewhere in Roysambu, taking services closer to the people. Now, that clinic would ideally be a level 2, either dispensary or health center in terms of level. Now, if we are not purchasing services from there, it is 1, unstrategic. 2, we will push people to go to level 4 and 5. For conditions they need not to go there because they can be seen closer to them.
So you're burdening the higher levels.
Correct.
And this fund then is saying that you can go to your local dispensary, local clinic.
Yes.
And you should get services there.
Yes.
But this will not be in the social health insurance.
It will be paid by the social health authority, but the money need to be kept separately in a way it is trackable to a person who is uniquely identified who seek those services. That's what we are talking about. But there is one new thing that I also want you to highlight to you. One of the reasons why people bypass healthcare facilities, they go very far. Number 1 in Kenya is lack of commodities. Because you have gone to a facility, it's public, it's private, it's FBO, it doesn't have the commodities you have. Ideally, the only option you have is either you go to another hospital. You go start from consultation, you come down until you get the medicine. Already, a process you had done before that. Now, what we are saying is that it is possible to have community pharmacies. It is possible to have any outlet that is providing commodities to be able to give you those commodities which you have not gotten in that hospital, provided you have your card and they have been onboarded in line with the cost of the medicine.
So I can go to a facility, I get a prescription, and I walk out to a private pharmacy which is on the list, and I can buy the medicine there.
Actually, you'll find your prescription there.
At the pharmacy?
Yes, because the digitization, these laws must be led for all of them together.
Sasa,
yes.
Let's take a break. Because that's on paper, and we've talked about these things on paper. Sounds always very good. And we started saying that last year in October. On paper, these things, the 4 laws, the structure, sounds good. We shall see the implementation. We are seeing the implementation. First delay announced. Let's see whether...
But registration have started.
Let's now understand what is practically happening. 22 minutes to 9. Dr. Daniel Mwai is our guest. He is an expert on matters of health financing. In fact, he is the president's advisor on health financing. We are talking about this move from what we know currently as NHIF into this new health authority, the social health authority, which inside there's SHIF. Shifting to SHIF. Let's get the business news. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Business news with SpiceFM.
This is the business news brought to you by Stanbic Bank. I'm Leah Ubaga. Low-cost carrier Jambojet has launched a new direct flight route from Mombasa to Zanzibar. This, the company, which is a subsidiary of Kenya Airways KQ, said would boost tourism, trade and culture in the region. The inaugural flight departed from Mombasa's Moi International Airport on Monday and landed at Zanzibar's Abeid Amani Karume International Airport. The Nairobi Securities Exchange has shed 63.1 billion in investor wealth over the past 2 weeks, signaling investors' concern over the impact of anti-government protests on the economy. The shilling has also seen slight volatility over the past week on uncertainty over the government's spending plans following the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. That's the Business Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Financial tips brought to you by Stanbic Bank. How much do I need to save for retirement? Begin by determining the type of retirement lifestyle you want. Some costs, such as medical expenses, travel, and entertainment, may increase in retirement. A general rule is to aim to replace about 70% of your final salary through investments and plans that provide stable income in retirement. Financial investments such as bonds and income-generating funds are well suited to this.
Spice FM Business. The weather with Spice FM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi, 12 degrees. We'll see highs today of 24 and lows of 13. 13 will be the low in a sunny Nakuru, going to highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 24 in a sunny Nyeri. At 16, it's 14 and sunny in Eldoret with highs of 23. Mombasa is sunny at 25 with highs of 30, and Malindi will go to highs of 29 today. 22 and sunny in Kakamega with highs of 28, and Kisumu will see highs of 30, where it's sunny at 23. We're looking into partly sunny Kampala at 22, and 25 and sunny in Dar es Salaam. 12 degrees and partly sunny in Johannesburg, and it's 27 and sunny in Mogadishu with 15 and cloudy conditions in Addis Ababa. Lagos, now after the heavy morning rain, light rain showers at 25, and it's partly sunny in Kinshasa at 22.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, Dr. Daniel Moy is our guest here. So if you look at the comments, Dr. people are just like, The understanding is like, it's still very confusing. And you said that there's now a launch of a communication that comes to explain to people what exactly is happening. So let's start from here. Right now, today, is NHIF, if I went to hospital, am I using NHIF? And you've talked about registration. What is this registration? How is it happening?
Where?
And where?
Thank you. I think with the time, people will come to understand, because we desire to keep this in open. And I think that's why the ministry have really tried to, in terms of, pushing information, but not as it should have done, because we are still in the cooking. So now is the time for implementation, as you say. So the first thing is that for one to register, there is a USS code, that is a 147 hash.
Mm-hmm.
That star 147 hash. Mm-hmm. This is one country and 47 counties.
Oh,
because all of us need to have, the healthcare, and universal is for universal for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You can also go to the SHA website, www.sha.go.ke. There's a portal, that one. You can also register there, in the portal. You can also register in the previous NHIF offices.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do
what
that.
What do you mean previous? They're still NHIF offices?
Yeah, NHIF is transitioning to SHA.
Okay.
So you can call them NHIF SHA.
Okay.
But ideally, the NHIF offices would still be SHA offices anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Again, we say it is an uplift. It's not, we are not saying that we are killing NHIF. It's an upgrade. When you upgrade, there are things you do. System retains some few things, others, of course, it changes. So in the offices are ready for registration. You can do this registration actually at home, because if you have a phone and you can dial the USS code, the only thing that USS code do not help you do is actually get biometric.
Okay.
So for you to verify your biometric, remember, we have a single source of truth. When you put your ID, it will pull your biometric, but you need to say this biometric belong to Daniel. So you need to verify. So the verification is possible to do it within, facilities that are government. It's possible to do it within the Huduma centers. It's possible to do it within the NHIF structure offices. And we are rolling out other devices that you'll be able to work with community health promoter to be able to verify your
come and verify
at home.
So even after doing the star 147 hash, I will still need to now do the physical biometric entry.
You need to verify your biometric.
Okay.
I'm just giving an example. When you take a private insurance, the first day you visit the facility
is when you do that.
You do that.
Okay.
Now, instead of waiting to get sick and go to facility to do it, we are providing avenues where citizens can be able to do this early, so that they don't get into problems when they want to seek care.
Okay.
And this initiative does not discriminate, And I talk this because much of the middle class and unemployed people pay for premiums for their parents, for instance. Now, What we are saying now is that if they are, their parents need to seek care, they need to already be registered. There is a self-registration portal, and that's why it's enabling you to register from your home. If as we progress, it will become easier when you have what we are calling a client portal on your phone. You can monitor your health at your phone on your phone. So it's health at on your hand, so to speak, if I may put it like that.
So once I registered here,
yes.
Then what?
Now, when you register, two things will happen. You register if you are employed, or if you are already in NHIF. Now, if you are already in NHIF, the system will triangulate your fingerprints. You'll use the single source of truth and the biometric that you are provided previously in the NHIF database. If they match, you need not do. It's an opt-in issue rather than biometric verification.
Okay.
But you'll find, and I can tell you this because it's a reality, that you might find that, I can see you have all your fingers, but when you match the NRB and the data that we have, it may not be clean. There's a lot of data there where, I might have 2 fingers or 8. But the other 3 belongs to another person. So the other 2 belongs to another person. Now, that is why people are asking, why the process of cleanup? Now, if we migrate this data without cross-checking with a single source of truth, and that's the knowledge I want people, the tweaking that I want people to see, that if I just correct information and I have no reference to a single source of truth, then there is no way of verifying whether that truth is truth. So I can have 3 fingers and yours, 2, and somebody else. That means I can already...
It can be 4 people at the same time.
Correct. And that means that I can build the fund, even if I am not the one who is sick. So that's the challenge. So people should understand it's a validation verification issue for the members who are already in the NHIF.
And is that currently going on as we speak? Because like you said, they're already members. So is that cleanup already happening as we speak in the back end?
Yes.
All right.
And we also thought it will take lesser time to actually match this than it has taken.
Okay.
But that work has been going on.
Painstaking.
So in this process, as all of this happens, what you then get your card at some point, or do you continue with your old card?
Before the launch, before the launch of services, because we have launched the process, and the process moves from registration. It's like cooking. You begin by boiling water, you bring flour, you add there until you cook your ugali. It is complete. Then you go to what is accompanying that ugali. Now, that's what we are talking about. We are now cooking registration. From registration, we go to access to services. But at the same time, onboarding the providers is happening. So by the time we are, it's better to say, give me some time to delay so that my ugali is well cooked before you eat. Rather than I tell you, because I said you'll eat at 1, then I serve you uncooked, not cooked that is not completely done. So
but
that's the kind of a problem.
But in the meantime, you still have access to health services under NHIF.
I was coming there. Fantastic. That's why it is an extension. So you still continue getting services with the NHIF until that time when we transition.
Okay.
So that we don't have disruption of services.
Okay.
That's the key main point.
Now, come October 1st, because this is the date that you've given us, unless you give us another date. But right now we're going with October 1st, right? I have a card, and I'm assuming that all of these processes have taken place. This verification that you speak of, the registration, collating everything that has happened, and then you move, right? Are we saying that I have a card now, and I can walk into a facility for the service? Of course, we know the 3 different funds under which one now you're going to access medical facility. You go, you present your card, you're treated, you come out, you do not pay a shilling. Is that what we are saying?
So, thank you very much. That's a good question. So, after these 2 things that will happen. One is that our expectation is that you'll use your ID card.
To do what?
As your card.
Your expectation.
That will be the SHA card.
Correct.
Okay.
There's not going to be a special card written SHA.
Correct. So, people are in the business of having too many cards.
bwana, too many.
All right. So when you will go with your card, which happens to be your ID card. All right. And when you get to the facility will have been in the what we are calling the health registry, because you know that we have had quacks in the market. So now what we are doing is that the boards that are credit facilities have given us the list of facilities. We have created a provider registry. So when you go there, we know which level of care is provided there. So you need not to know whether you are getting from a PHC fund, whether it is NHIF, whether it is SHA, because the system will recognize you as a person who have come to seek service within a primary healthcare fund, for instance.
Okay.
Now you will access your services and you will pay, but you will pay from your social insurance or from what you are calling the social health authority. Yes.
I'm saying there is money that you have paid previously by the deductions. That one we know, right? I am saying physically, when I go with that card now to whatever facility at whatever level, and I present my card, I've been treated by doctor, get medicine, whatever, is there money that I am physically removing on that day?
No.
And paying? That's the thing.
You only need your card.
Okay.
Which is your
ID, go facility, go home.
Correct. And that is why you need to be uniquely identified, because a card cannot uniquely identify you. You have to uniquely identify you is your biometric.
Okay.
So there's no need of coming with so many things, yet you have come yourself.
So you know, in Kenyan speak,
yes,
it's free. I will walk to a primary healthcare facility for the primary, and the primary healthcare fund will pay.
Yes, so that's why from economics we don't believe in free things.
So when I go to the facility, nitaitishwa pesa.
Free is I'm not paying any money at the facility.
Correct, that's good.
Maybe situshi pesa.
We teach you pesa. Because somebody else is paying.
Because my taxes have already paid.
Fantastic.
For the primary healthcare fund.
Correct.
Okay.
So we from as professions we discourage the use of free into the health things, because people get free in a very different way. But I agree with what you are saying. It is you will not pay, you present your card, and you will go home.
Naenda bure.
Yes.
Bila pesa.
Yes.
I have done the *147# as we were talking, and they've sent me a message. So you go through, put your ID number, your employment status, your marital status, are you living with disability, and then you accept that they are going to verify your information. Then they've given me a link here to go now to this link and you do what? It's a long process, boss.
Now, we must also accept that there's a process of getting into a good system. Now, the process of getting into a good system is getting good information in there. And when you take a private insurance, for instance, you fill a very big form. Why is it that we don't say that is big? There's no difference.
It's once.
The idea is that it is only once you provide the right information. And from there, the issue of fraud because of poor data being in the healthcare financing systems is removed. Is it because there is no other way of doing it?
I get it. My issue is the multi-steps. You see, once somebody has done the *147#, right? There are many people who will believe that they are registered to SHA. But the expectation is that now the next step is you are supposed to either visit a SHA agent or you go to the website. There's that other expectation.
So
when you increase the steps, you're losing people on the way.
I agree completely with you on that. But there is a limitation on what a USSD can do.
True.
And, we must be very, open on what a jembe can do and how far it can plow and what a tractor can do. Now, we are saying that you need to have done your preliminary work. You have to have registered. When you go to the website, all that information have been pulled. You are not going to repeat. You are continuing because of the limitation of a USSD code.
Okay.
So if it was our prerogative, this is technology, is not even financing work, then it will have gone up to the end. But you need to go there so that you are also able to populate, including, ability to choose your dependents, to list them, to triangulate them, so that we know your unit. Who are we covering? So that's the process. But when you look at the SSD code, it is telling you where to go.
Yeah. It has just told me to the nearest agent. Now, that is now a whole long story. So there's a lot of communication that's needed. Dear Eric, welcome to the Social Health Authority. Your application has been submitted successfully. Visit an authorized SHA agent or click the link below to complete your registration online using your application phone number.
Correct.
All right?
Yes.
So for somebody who does not then get to understand how to click the website and go, they're supposed to go to the authorized SHA agent. Are we going to see banners and clearly labeled places written authorized SHA agent, come register here when this is going on?
So the work that I've started this week, Latif, largely, is actually to address the gap you are talking about. Because we want each and every person, each household in Kenya to understand what am I supposed to do and where. Now, those SHA designated registration areas are clearly outlined within the website, and they'll also be communicated. And you'll see this from this week going forward. It's an issue of driving people to a product that has been complete, because you have to wait to complete a product. Then if you went to that USSD and it's not working, then it would have become a very big issue. So I want you to look at this as phase one, which is registration. And registration you need to register, put in your document, your basic registration that pulls any other data that you have within the reference bureau, including your biometric. But when you get there, you have some few things to do. Among them is actually choosing your dependents. It's also verifying your biometric.
Okay.
Yes.
So the link takes me to the SHA website. The SHA website tells me register. It takes me to the eCitizen portal. That is, boss. How many?
If I'm hearing you, are saying the journey looks long.
It's just looking a bit long. This is a long journey, and you need to explain it in greater detail on how I'm moving there. That's just one feedback. But then the question is, how many people need to be onboarded by the time we are going live with service provision in October? Is there a minimum? Can you say that if SHA has not registered 1 million people in October, we extend NHIF again?
Two things. One is that registration is a continuous process. And to give you statistics is that you need at least from 30-40% of population to be in as you move to the future. It's not difficult to actually get there, so to speak, with the value proposition being explained to the people. For me, it's an issue of we have finished the architecture. What is remaining is breakdown and communication of the value proposition to the Kenyans, so that they are able to log. They were still joining NHIF anyway, and NHIF was a smaller, small and less benefit package, for instance, compared to this one. So it's an issue of communication going to the future. And this have just started. And it's good to provide. I'm technical. Technical people, I give you facts the way they are. What happens?
Communication people need to come.
Communication people takes it. I'm not a communicator. I will not come here and say I'm the best knowing how do I push this message to my local village in Nyahururu. I'll actually try, but most likely I'll fail. You could do better. So what the ministry is doing is to start bringing on board the communication expert, the people who are able to simplify. Because when I explain to you, even now, there are things I explain to you and you say them in a nicer way, I felt them lighter. That a normal Kenyan can understand, and I will do. Right.
Final question, Dr. Ari, as we close. Yesterday there was a story about what's happening with NHIF. With this extension, there appears to be some confusion. People who have chronic illnesses are going to facilities and they are not able to access their services because apparently there's some miscommunication on NHIF. Can NHIF continue paying for dialysis?
It is continuing to pay for dialysis, and SHA will also continue to pay for dialysis when it comes. So I want people to understand that the basic principle is that we do not want disruption of services. And from where I look at it from, if you look at where does it pain more for Kenyans, is actually at chronic illness. And when you go to the principle of this fund, it is covering chronic illnesses in a bigger, far way than even expected, including things like organ transplant. And according to the process going into the future, is that the services will continue.
Okay.
Until when we roll out the new one.
Okay.
After rolling out the new one, we'll go to Canaan, which is better. Okay. But as of now, as we cook, we have to overlap. Otherwise, it's not a switch end. And
so we are still on this side of Jordan, but we are still accessing services.
Yeah, we are preparing
NHIF.
to cross. Yes.
Okay. Daktari, thank you very much for joining us today. Dr. Daniel Mwai, the President's advisor on health financing, has been our guest talking about this transition to the Social Health Authority. 9 a.m., time for the news.
235 Kenyans injured during the protests were treated for various injuries for free and discharged. The CS said 58 others remain admitted in various hospitals, while one is in ICU, even as 3 others await surgery. Harry remarks come even as a section of Kenyans had raised more than 20 million shillings through Mchanga as of Friday last week. A second body of a man has been found in the debris of a Sunbeam shopping complex a week after it was burnt down in Nairobi during the anti-tax demos. An official at the complex told police they were removing the debris when they found the body that had started rotting. The first body of a 56-year-old man was found in the debris of the mall on Thursday last week, 2 days after it was razed down in the chaos. It's believed the 6-story building was burnt by looters who had invaded it, but the fire was worsened by police who lobbed tear gas canisters to force out the looters. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has released facial images of 38 individuals suspected of engaging in acts of lawlessness during the anti-finance protests. The DCI have asked members of the public to channel information that could help lead to their arrest via the Fichua Kwa DCI hotline number or via the police hotline number. The protests held from Tuesday last week have witnessed the worst acts of vandalism, muggings and torching of business premises and vehicles in major towns like Nairobi, Mombasa and Kisumu. The judiciary has clarified that a matter before a court in Eldoret in which a man was released on a 10 million shillings bond was not about 181 kilograms of goat meat as alleged. As per the charge sheet, judiciary said the accused person, Jonathan Paul Mutua, was charged with breaking into a building and committing a felony. The charge sheet further reads that together with others not before the court, they broke into Banias Club Square and allegedly stole items as per a list provided whose total value is 37 million shillings. The list referred to includes screens, electronics, sound systems, kitchen equipment and gas cylinders, office equipment, computers and printers, restaurant furniture, freezer, microwave, utensils, assorted meat, foods and drinks. Now the Ministry of Health has formed a team to help abolish standalone HIV clinics countrywide. Head of the Division of the National AIDS and STIs Control Program, Rose Wafula, said the move is informed by evidence that combining HIV treatment and other health services is good for patients and the health system. She said the team includes officials from NASCOP, researchers, donors and representatives of health CACs. More than 65% of the 1.4 million Kenyans living with HIV are aged above 35 years. 6 politicians, a businessman and 2 NGOs are on the radar of state intelligence and security agencies following suspicion of involvement in fueling ongoing anti-government protests. The state says failure to obtain hard evidence of the suspects' logistical and financial connections to the protesters has, however, intensified abductions. This is one of the ways security operators are using so as to seek grounds to arrest and prosecute those behind the sponsorship of the protests. And finally, Kakamega County Woman Representative Elsie Muhanda has urged youth to start holding the county government accountable for its services towards residents. Speaking in Lurambi, Muhanda further supported the Gen Z protests that has put the government under pressure to fulfill its promises to Kenyans.
na nikapiga no. Mwananchi anaumia, gharama ya maisha imeenda juu, ndio nikasema lazima nisimame na Masita na Paulina. Mimi nashukuru watoto wetu walangua Gen Z, tulikuwa tunanungunika, lakini wametoka. Sisi tunasema pole kwa zile familia ya Z waliwacha. Ama Gen Z, pia mkiwa Kakamega County, pia muangalie county kuna nini. Si county imepata pesa 17 billion. Gen Z mkiwa hapa, mchunguzi sisi wote viongozi.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run over it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aye, City, do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
I mean, I don't know. So, what are they saying? How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of the
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Jogoo Road is taking no prisoners today. There's traffic all over. It's crossing over from Manyanja over Outer Ring and then onto Landis. In and outbound traffic on Landis seems to be an eyesore, and more than just seen it, felt. There's traffic then heading out towards Kamkunji and then through onto Haile Selassie. There's a little bit of traffic trickling in from Gong Road. Let's take a quick look at the Thika Superhighway, where traffic is still heavy coming in from Survey out towards the Pangani Underpass and then Muranga Road all the way to the roundabout. Crazy traffic. Take a quick look at what's coming off of Waiyaki Way. And if we take into consideration James Gishuru, not much happening here. As you cross over to the Red Hill Link Road, there's some traffic then as you approach the city. Okay, so we're still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens. Looks like it is going to be a busy Tuesday. Keep your wits about, folks. Let's know what's going on where you are. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag The Situation Room on Wednesday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room The only way to start your day.
Yes, indeed it is. And thank you very much for keeping it locked. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We set the agenda for the nation and we follow up with everything that the country is saying. Now, listen, you're watching the Euros and you're thinking, all right, so round of 16, okay, next thing is the quarterfinals, next thing will be the semifinals, and then the final. Who do you think is going to win this thing?
I don't know.
Who's your team?
Man.
Pick. Is it Portugal?
Portugal's already playing very well. So is England and so is France. We don't know.
That's England.
Okay. Which team has many Africans?
France. France is glorified Africa. You know. So we want Africa, aka France, to win.
Before Marie Le Pen becomes leader of that country.
Exactly. Before she decides to make France great again, let us win the Euro. Africa. Let Africa win the Euro before
France.
Exactly.
So if you want to watch the games live on your mobile device, what do?
You log on to www.showmax.com or you download the Showmax app, Google Play Store or Apple App Store. You register, you pay, you watch. You can watch these matches that we're talking about right now live. You can, have access to fan content. You can have access to match analysis and all of these fun things. And you can watch it from the comfort of wherever you are. And that's one of the fantastic things about watching the Euros live, just because you pay for them and you have mobile access, right? There's also other great entertainment that's up for grabs when you do register for Showmax. And all of this you're watching live and in HD.
Kabisa. Okay. And then tell us about Roy Samu, and then I'll tell you how you can access Jubilee Health as a chama.
So, how about you get to the point where you need to access medical facilities and you think about, okay, I don't want to travel so far. Well, there's the belief that health will be brought to your doorstep, or rather next to where you live or next to where you work. And we're saying, you know what? This can actually happen. The Aga Khan University Hospital has actually then established a new specialty care center. That's the Roy Sambu Specialty Care Center, and it is at the Roy Sambu Roundabout. It's Jewel Plaza. All things available, from surgeries to chemotherapy to dialysis to endoscopy, all provided by health experts, surgeons, gastroenterologists, oncologists across board. It's great healthcare here and now.
You've been thinking about getting health insurance. We've talked about Shivsha coming up, but also there's still the private health insurance. If you are in a group of at least 10 people, you can take a group cover with Jubilee. And this is called a group micro cover, which is perfect for chamas and small groups. This one, if you're 10 of you, it offers comprehensive coverage for pre-existing and chronic conditions. You get free telemedicine. You also get local emergency road evacuation. So there's an emergency and maybe you've fallen sick and you can just summon an ambulance. They come, ambulance picks you, takes you to a health facility, and insurance will pay. All you need to do is just come together as this chama or a group of 10. Group micro cover works perfectly for you looking to secure your health together. For more details on the micro cover, visit the website jubileeinsurance.com. Keep your group healthy and secure with Jubilee. CT, remind us the day's proverb.
Yes. Our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the Republic of Angola. What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog.
What has been wet by rain cannot be wet by the fog. It's a good one. It's a very good proverb. Now, let's look at what's been happening in the country, right? So, started with the online agitation against the finance bill as a trigger. And then it morphed into actually looking back at, so finance bill is seeking to raise these taxes. Why? Where is the money going? How is the money being spent so far? It actually became a whole conversation about the public finance management, and people coming out into the street and saying, no, President, government, just do not bring this bill at all. President says, I hear you, Sawa, I will not sign this bill into law. Sawa. We will look at how we can better manage our finances. Okay? And people continue saying, all right, it goes beyond that. We still want to see action, heads rolling, action taking place. Can we see actual meaningful change in the way you've been doing things? And saying we still want to come out. But the people who were out yesterday in many parts are not the same people that we had seen 2 weeks ago. The people who had been covered in local and international media as, there's a new generation of Kenyans that are actually protesting, and they're protesting in a different way. They are putting across their message, and they are not violent. They are coming out, they're going back home. They are just picketing. The people we've seen on Tuesday last week, on Thursday, yesterday, are a different breed of people. They still look young. So what's happening? Is it that our Gen Zs have suddenly become violent? Is it that our Gen Zs have become so angry that they decided, our keywords, you're not reading placards, let us torch tires. You're not reading placards, let us rob from people. Is that what happened?
Yep, it is.
It's not what happened. So our Gen Zs are frustrated, they've become violent.
No, what we are seeing is that there is a group, and there are certain satellite groups of individuals who have infiltrated this larger protest group to bring about this destruction that we see, to bring about, in my opinion, a swaying of the initial narrative. It's not even a swaying, it's almost a toppling of the initial narrative. And that makes it seem as though young people, not even just young people, anybody who's been involved in the protest then, has left the original agenda and has now gone to a place of destruction of property and harming of people, which I purpose to say is not the case. That it still remains that there are still calls for people to say, we can protest in this manner, but that there is a deliberate introduction of criminals. That's true. That there's a deliberate introduction of criminals who've come to do some of the nasty things that we saw happening yesterday. And that sways 100% away from the original agenda. And it is deliberate. Why do I say it's deliberate? It is either that they have been encouraged or they have been paid, or one of those, either one of those two things has happened. But it is not the original plan for the protests in the manner in which they started last week. What we saw yesterday was criminal in nature. What we saw yesterday was definitely deliberate. It was planned and very different from those who came out to protest. That must be called out.
We've had protests before, and let's categorize them. The recent ones were the cost of living protests. And within those protests, there were peaceful moments. But then again, one witnessed the very sort of mayhem that we're talking of, where people had their shops vandalized, people lost property, there were damages. What we're seeing now is on a completely different scale. Completely different scale.
Yep. This thing has changed.
Yes.
It has turned. But how was it so easy to infiltrate such a protest?
If indeed it was infiltrated, the fact that those who began the protest were youthful, it became much, much easier to infiltrate. The reason is because who is it that you are going to find to be present at most rallies? It's usually young people, not young, not old. Who are you going to find who will be able to run around during demonstrations? It's young people. And then when you have a situation where you have unemployment rates skyrocketing as we do, where you have many young people, many who have gone to school, many who have some qualifications and have nothing to do. It isn't as though you lack for a population to be able to give these protests the force and the presence of body that is required. By the same token, when we've talked about people looting and causing mayhem, there have been young people again.
That's true.
So now, whenever we look at our politics and do the political seasons, one of the things that characterizes our politics is thuggery. We have entrenched this culture where it's like it's almost impossible for someone to be a budding politician or for someone who is a politician to retain their political position without engaging thugs. People who will either ensure that they disrupt someone else's rally, someone who on short call can beat up an opposition, or people who are on short call can do the sort of things that would enable you to dissuade your detractors and to enhance your position. It has been an industry that has grown with time. Now, whenever we've had demonstrations, it's like the opportunity to actually practice or to apply the trade they have learned over time into practice. It's an opportunity for them to do that. Now, when you have one such as this one, which has grown and is all over the country, essentially what you've said, the hoodlum circle and the hoodlum brigade and the hoodlum unions have been unleashed throughout the country.
Okay, so let's take a step back. Let's call this band of people hoodlums.
They are hoodlums.
Gen Zs and millennials.
Yes.
Because they look like, that.
They are Gen Z and they are millennials. That's the age group they are.
Now, it has been said before that part of the reason why they are so easy to mobilize is because they are disenfranchised, they feel disillusioned, they have lost hope, and they have just given up on the system. So they have just decided, let's cool off from the system. Right? It has been argued like this before. Those who are either organized and used by politicians or whichever criminal elements to turn up in demonstrations, those who turn up in those demonstrations that have been organized in by various groups, whether you say the civil society groups have organized a demonstration and you see some people who are ruffians and doing bad things, whether you say it's the Azimio demos, for example, last year, that you could see there were people who are ruffians who are doing this kind of things, the hoodlums who would participate in acts of vandalism, and looting,
and law breaking.
You could say that they have been taken advantage of by the political class, by those in positions of authority, because of their economic situation.
Yes.
This conversation that was brought up by their age mates and their contemporaries, and assuming them also, was addressing this issue once and for all.
Directly.
Yes. Saying, you know what, we are no longer going to be taken advantage of. We are not going to be used. We are not going to be, sidelined in decision making. We want to participate in decision making. One would assume that those that have actually previously been so agitated and come out to participate in previous demonstrations would be the ones who see the message as, this is what we've been fighting for. Finally, we see others who are like us, who've been sitting back at home as we went out to fight and kunywa tear gas, now joining us. They'll be happy. They'll be saying, finally we have more people, we are getting to a critical mass that can force change on our own, right? But it appears that that's not the case. That there's still the hoodlum brigade is not buying this thing that this other iPhone, KFC, Gen Z brigade, Uber brigade, it's like we have those two brigades.
But are they not behaving that way influenced? That they have not come into the streets because they're not buying the same agenda as those who started the protest.
Were they in the streets earlier?
No.
So why not? Why didn't they join?
At the very beginning.
Okay, or maybe ask this way. Do you think the hoodlum brigade was with the iPhone, KFC, Uber brigade 2 weeks ago in the streets?
No.
But you could not tell them apart because at this time they were not being hoodlummy.
If that was the case, are you saying that along the way then, that what we've seen is that they've been compromised in one way or another to now get them to start behaving in this criminal nature?
That's what I'm asking.
Or were they just at home, chilling, doing whatever it is?
Watching this.
These guys did not, these guys who are hoodlums or whatever, these guys who we saw yesterday doing this thing, they don't have a job. No, they don't have a job that they're doing somewhere and then somebody says, take a break and come and do this thing and then go back to your job. So what are we saying here? That they've been what do we say, compromised? Have they been paid? Have they been influenced to come and try to dismantle what has been a protest over the last 2 weeks?
And why would they accept?
Money.
Okay. So previously they did not come out because there was no money.
Yes, no.
So
if somebody doesn't make it worth your while, what are you going to go and do and start shouting and fighting?
Are we saying
somebody's made it worth your while?
The guys who came out 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago were the bougie class. And these other guys did not join them.
Not necessarily, because not everybody, and that was the danger of the majority leader's statement.
Yeah, putting it into class.
That was the danger of his statement by trying to classify this thing, because in as much as you did see people taking selfies and doing all that, there were a large number of people who maybe you want to see as maybe not even of that position that he described, because it was a wide array of different people from different social strata that nobody was even using that to identify them. And that was the danger in the statement that he made.
The identification was that they were Gen Z.
The identification was that they were Gen Z. And the one strong narrative was that, look here, we are not satisfied with this kind of governance that is taking place today. Those were the two characterizations of these people who came out to protest.
Okay, let me ask the question
So
again.
now that's what I'm saying. The people who were introduced into this thing were folks, in my opinion, who were ready to take a little bit of shilling to come and disrupt this thing.
Let me ask the question again. The guys that we saw throwing stones at that restaurant in Mombasa, the one that we saw looting supermarkets, those ones that were there yesterday, because they were in their hundreds.
Yes.
Do you think they had come out 2 weeks ago, but they were peaceful?
No.
Why not?
No. Let me read something that may shed a little light. This is a story from the Standard team in Mombasa. Okay? Multiple interviews revealed. No, let me just start from Justice Mugure Thande also restrained police from extrajudicial killing, abductions, detentions, or torture of the protesters until the petition by Tabao Olekanchori is determined. Multiple interviews revealed that 3 groups of knife-wielding gangs were ferried into town where they roamed freely, attacking people and businessmen. Let me continue. A protester claimed that the individual behind the mayhem was a well-known political activist who was seen giving instruction to the gangs near Pandya Hospital. The activist directed the gang to attack a tourist who fainted and was rushed to hospitals. The attackers arrived in Mombasa CBD on foot, riding motorcycles, or were dropped off at Mombasa, said a police source. Okay? Mr. Kennedy Ikutwa, who suffered stab wounds in his arm, said he was waiting to board a matatu when the thugs confronted him. I lost my phone and shoes as the attackers, who also hurt me with a knife. It is like chaos was unleashed on us by the state because the police watched as they attacked. Mr. Uma said, the protest march went on peacefully in the morning with police escorting the protesters and keeping watch at a distance. 2 pickpockets who had attempted to steal from the protesters were beaten and forced to flee. Some day schools ordered students to go back home because their safety was not guarded. Now, from the story that I've just told you, this is a report from Mombasa. They say these people were ferried. It is, to answer your question, the protesters were going on with their business. Even if you look at, say, the city of Nairobi, ask yourself, when the protests begin, do we see violence immediately, or does it take place sometimes after?
Sometimes later.
Precisely.
Yes.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Because if indeed it's the same group who were violent, we would not even be able to come to work or leave work because they'd be in the streets causing mayhem. But when you leave work at a certain hour, you actually see them marching along with the Kenyan flag, walking, waving cars along, waving at people.
Keep going.
That's what they do.
Absolutely.
So when all of a sudden, at a certain hour, there is all this violence,
you have to ask. And in as much as we're going to call out that the destruction and, things we're saying, violating and going into areas that are protected, which we shouldn't go to according to the law. Because what we're saying here is that regardless of what a protest is, that the rule of law must
be maintained.
Okay? In as much as we're going to call that out, we must call this out as well. That it is very clear that as far as the human eye can see, that the agenda of the protest here has been stained. It has been.
Yeah.
Because now you want to make it seem as though, look at your protest, because that is what the castigators now began to say across board. You see, look at what you people are doing. And they lumped everybody into the same. Yeah, look at what your people are doing now. They've lumped everybody into the same pot. And we know very well, just like what you're saying now, that there was an introduction of this element later on in the day. And if you want to countermine this, just look at, again, that picture of that young lady who said, you know what? I came out to protest peacefully. I own a business here, but look, these people are now starting to rob and destroy. So I am going to defend my business. When I'm done with that, I'm going to go back and protest. So those elements have been introduced. We cannot run away from that. To then foil the agenda of this, which in its large majority was peaceful.
The narrative throughout was, we are peaceful. Someone wants to tell us that all of a sudden
the peaceful people have
care of him. You want to tell me these are the same people who are going to turn around in the twinkling of an eye and start burning property and then violating and then pilfering from shops? Come on. Even if you have an iota of sense, you would be able to see that this is not the same strain of people and that there is a deliberate move behind this to then besmirch the character of this protest. It is clear.
What everything that we are saying and what we are reading seems to point to, there's a deliberate attempt to ensure that the protests are given as dark a hue as possible, so that it's no longer a peaceful process. These are destroyers of property. These are people who are harming others. So that the action then that will then be mandated to be taken against them will have been justified by whatever narrative has taken hold. Because the narrative, once it is changed, and we're now saying these are violent people, these are destructive people, these are hooligans, because that's what it is.
Yep.
Or that's the narrative that seems to be propagated.
Yep.
So now, when the strong arm of the law, operative word here, strong arm of the law, is now put in force, there'll be justification. And it's like the justification is being built. Yes. There is a picture on page 10 of the Director of Criminal Investigations. 40 individuals, pictures of them taken. Okay? They're saying wanted suspects. The individuals whose images, photos appear below are wanted by the police for their unlawful activities during the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 demonstrations. We therefore advise them to report to the nearest police station for further police action. I see. Information on the whereabouts of any of the suspects may be channeled confidentially to the through the anonymous Fichua DCI hotline number 08007 22203 or the police hotline 999 or 991 or 112. Okay. Now.
And you have the faces there.
Oh, the faces are there. Someone.
I noticed that one of them is, remember the video that was going round of one of the guys who was inside Parliament and he recorded a video saying, Mr. Speaker!
Yes, that gentleman.
But unfortunately, he's passed away. That's
so,
what we were told.
Yes, I've been seeing that on social media. I haven't
We've not been able to verify.
No, it hasn't been verified. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard, but it has not been verified as yet.
So one of those is the photo is there.
Now the question I'm asking myself is, okay, if you have these pictures and you know who these individuals are, all right, and you are asking them to report. I see.
They're given the first choice: report or we'll come for you.
Yes.
I can clearly see that, there's been a different angle that's been introduced to the protests, right? And clearly, and we've said this many times, the youth have been taken advantage of, the youth have been used to go and cause chaos in demonstrations, the youth, kuna watu wanatumia vijana wetu vibaya, okay? And that has been the conversation, because it's been assumed, or it has come out as the youth are so disempowered that's the only thing to do. But this is an instance where the youth have actually empowered themselves. This is an instance where the Gen Zs and the millennials have empowered themselves. They feel empowered. They feel we are not going to be taken advantage of anymore. Are you saying that there's still a group of young people, Gen Zs and millennials, who did not buy into that whole nonsense about, now we've taken the power, now we have the power, we can change things.
They may
that they still want to be given 200 bob by a politician or someone of influence to go and cause mayhem.
I was looking at protests.
That they don't get their point here.
They do. I was reading about protests and I was looking at situations across the globe where people, university protests, young people protests. I went back to as far back as 1968. And protests that were led by youthful people. I looked at protests that were led or that were organized to talk and to bring to the fore the problems of racism and so forth.
Yeah.
And there's especially the ones that one reads about in America, because America seems to have taken the cup for many of these protests. Police action, it is shocking how it mirrors the police action that we've seen here. It is actually shocking. Where media people are assaulted, not told to walk away, assaulted, okay? And also where individuals, in the name of the protest, break into shops and loot. Los Angeles is one of those places that faced not just protests, but riots, okay? Now, what we are seeing being introduced here are not protests. These are now riots. And with the riots came the pilfering, the breakages, the looting, okay? Even on the day that people went into Parliament, did we not see some people looting?
It's true.
So, you cannot tell me that these individuals who are now causing mayhem are the same individuals whom we saw at the beginning of this protest. And the reason is this. If you look at the numbers of those protesters, the first time they came into the streets, let me ask a simple question. If all of them had gone on a looting spree, what would have been left of Nairobi City? A simple question. If all that whole group of people went on a looting spree, the CBD would have shut down. Not because there were people, there was nothing for you to do business with. But that didn't happen. Property was not touched. We saw it. We saw it on the first. Saw it on the second. When we talked to Boniface Mwangi, who was part and parcel of that group of people who were protesting, he told us categorically that their interest to go to Parliament was simply to be at the gate of Parliament, to sing their songs so that they could be heard as the discussions are going on. That is what he said.
Not to enter
No,
Parliament.
that was not the agenda. Their plan was not to enter Parliament. That was not the agenda. But the narrative is that these people had the agenda and wanted to enter Parliament.
And to go to the armory.
And it was easy to spin that.
Yes, exactly. Just as it has been easy to spin that the idea of going to State House is that they may enter it. But they did go to State House. The protesters did go to State House. And they did have a conversation with the security forces, and they then walked away.
Let's take a break. It's time for the business news at 23 minutes to 10. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll open up the phone lines and expand this conversation. So what are we seeing happening? Okay, so who's infiltrating? Then what next? So what happens now to these demonstrations? Do they get detained? Do they die? Does the whole conversation, the whole agenda of those that were coming out peacefully to raise their voices on something and seek change just die with that?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Business news with SpiceFM.
This is the business news brought to you by Stanbic Bank. I'm Leah Ubaga. Earnings from tourism hit a record high of 352.54 billion shillings last year, driven by a jump in visitor numbers, significantly lifting one of Kenya's biggest foreign exchange income drivers. This was a growth of 84.45 billion shillings, or 32% jump from the earnings of 268.08 billion made a year earlier. The US has warned that Kenya's rising debt burden is undermining its ability to provide quality medical care and education to its services, shining the spotlight on expensive debt procured in the last decade, partly from China. Washington said elevated debt servicing costs are taking up a larger chunk of taxes, leaving little for development projects in social services and spurring the creation of decent jobs for the rising number of skilled youthful population. That's the Business Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Financial tips brought to you by Standard Bank. How much do I need to save for retirement? Begin by determining the type of retirement lifestyle you want. Some costs, such as medical expenses, travel, and entertainment, may increase in retirement. A general rule is to aim to replace about 70% of your final salary through investments and plans that provide stable income in retirement. Financial investments such as bonds and income-generating funds are well suited to this.
SpiceFM Business. The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi, 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 13. 14 will be the low in a sunny Nakuru at 19, going to highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 24 in a sunny Nyeri at 19, coming down to lows of 14. It's sunny at 17 in Eldoret, highs of 23 and lows of 12. We're looking into a mostly cloudy Mombasa at 27 with highs of 30 and lows of 23. And Malindi sunny at 28. We'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 25. It's sunny at 25 in Kisumu. We'll see highs of 30, while Kakamega will be sunny through today. Currently at 24, going to highs of 29 and lows of 16. Looking to Kampala, it's sunny at 23 with highs of 29, and Dar es Salaam at 27, sunny going to highs of 30. Out into Johannesburg, 14 and sunny with highs of 20, and we'll see highs of 13. A partly sunny Mogadishu, it's 17 and cloudy. In Addis Ababa with highs of 21. Lagos, rain showers continue, currently at 25, going to highs of 28, and the sun is up at 22 in Kinshasa with highs of 31. Let's look into a sunny Beijing at 29 Wednesday afternoon. That'll be the high, coming down to lows of 21. It's cloudy at 14 in Paris. We'll see highs of 21, and we'll see highs of 19 in Array, London, currently at 14. Let's close things out in New York, where Tuesday night is clear at 22, coming into Wednesday, highs of 27 and lows of 21.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so this is happening, all right? And clearly, these peaceful street protests, peaceful, colorful street protests are getting infiltrated, and their name is getting tainted. Mm-hmm. So what should the peaceful demonstrators and protesters do next? Would you say that they organize another street protest like they've done, knowing full well the danger of it being infiltrated?
What they should do is announce that they are withdrawing from the protests, and say, for this period of time, we are not going to be having these protests. Our agenda remains the same. We'll use other avenues to communicate our message, but for now. So that if we see anybody in the street claiming to be protesting, we know with clarity. Okay? But why do I say this? If indeed there is a need to arrest these perpetrators, it will also give the security forces an opportunity. Instead of saying that you're dealing with a protest, there is no protest to deal with. Okay? So look for the people who have perpetrated these crimes and let them face the full force of the law.
There appears to be a challenge here, though. That because this thing is leaderless, right?
Who do you tell?
Who is this who's announcing that we shall not? Look at what happened. When Hanifa said, guys, we have gotten our win, let's take our win. Do you see the kind of pushback that she got?
Yes.
Still online.
Yes.
Being told, you're a sellout, get off.
Yes.
Compromised. We have been compromised.
Yes.
We are going back onto the street.
That is perfect. They have gone back into the streets, and here we are. So the same message needs to resonate again. If you wanted to achieve a certain goal, okay?
Yeah.
And that goal is being besmirched, it is time for you to say, let us withdraw.
Tactical retreat.
Yes, you haven't given up. You're saying, our agenda is being interfered with. Let's pull back. Because this is going to be us, and it's actually not us who are doing these things. Because whether you say you're not involved and somebody has lost his business, he still blames it on the Gen Z.
Yep.
Yes. So don't be part of a process that can be hijacked or has already been hijacked, and which will definitely be attributed to you.
Because what are we saying? That essentially right now with the destruction of property, because we're talking about, a loss. We're talking about things that didn't need to happen, but obviously did as a result of these criminal elements that were introduced into this whole thing, that people will then take a blanket judgment on everybody and say, well, it's because of this Gen Z protest that my property has been destroyed.
Yeah.
It's because of this Gen Z protest that my shop has been broken into and things have been stolen.
Mm.
So that is the image that will be given to this protest, and that would be, if you ask me, hugely unfortunate, because that was not the agenda from the very beginning. And that for the first time it showed us, though, look, that the people can actually raise their voices and talk about how their representation has been skewed, and that somebody would listen and then involve the people in the process of governance. Because essentially that was the initial cry, was it not?
It is.
That here we are with this thing that is going to affect our livelihoods. And we are saying, in the decisions that you make, as you represent us, how about you have us part of the conversation and let us tell you where the pain points are. But that doesn't seem to happen. And that life already being so difficult, now with this new raft of measures of taxes that you want to levy on us, it is going to make life all the more harder. And people saw an opportunity finally to say, you know what, let us be involved in this conversation. And we are going to march peacefully in the streets until you hear us. It worked. You hear what I'm saying? It worked to the point whereby, okay, well, we hear you. Now, the mechanics of all of how this will be activated are also pain points for people. But if we're looking at the agenda in terms of what it sought to fulfill, it did. What we don't want at this point is a situation where anything else is going to come to remove the victory of that agenda. And this thing that we saw yesterday is doing exactly that.
Exactly.
It is. Now, to continue to say that we're going to keep pushing against these things, guess what? The individual or the individuals who had the mind to pay people, to influence people to come and cause mayhem, it only gets hotter for them. For them, it's nothing. They're going to pay money. They're in a coven somewhere hiding, safe.
So they think.
So they think. But they're throwing this fire in. And I think that a protest must be. Because this kind of protest, or this push for citizen-centric governance, or this push for proper leadership, it cannot be just a protest affair. It has to be sustained. We have to continue to keep governments accountable. We have to insist on right governance. We have to insist on citizen-centric governance. We have to insist on right leadership. It is not a one-day thing. Somebody reminded me of the protests in Egypt. And why were they sustained for so long? Because there was a community building of ideas. There was a community building of agenda and saying, you know what, guys, let's keep adding to this wall. Let's keep adding to this wall. Do we know when to retreat? Do we know when to turn the thing around? Do we know when to now add more force or more fire? And I think it needs to be looked at from that lens. Because if we say, no, we're going to go back tomorrow, we're going to go back tomorrow, we're going to go back tomorrow, guess what? The people who are introducing these criminal elements, they have the same mind. And they're saying, okay, you want to bring it. El mano, let's go.
But how about then dealing with those ones?
The potency of the original agenda. It does.
In Egypt, there are reports, and there were reports even then, that as the protesters continued increasing on the streets of Cairo, Alexandria, and elsewhere, there were goons that were unleashed by those in power. Known gangs, those structured militias that usually exist with a tacit understanding of the administration knows. These are the chinkro. We know they exist. They are not so harmful. They are useful at some point. They were unleashed. But the people continued pouring out onto the streets. And despite all those things, somehow, they got their message.
They did.
There will be those radicals, not radical rascals, not radical saboteurs, not radical looters and arsonists, but radical protesters who believe a cause, who say, a luta continua.
No matter what.
You shall unleash those goons on us. You will, at some point, you will not have money to pay them. But we will have the strength and the resolve to turn up. Now, how do you address those ones?
I don't know.
Because they're saying the way to defeat that is not to cower down. The way to defeat that is to come out and say, we are not violent, we are not looters. We shall come out. We shall be on Kenyatta Avenue. We will be on Kenyatta Avenue. We will not be on blah, 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 on Kaunda Street, or we will be on Kenyatta Avenue. From the beginning of it to the end of it, we'll only be on Kenyatta Avenue. So you, and of course the looters will try to come to Kenyatta Avenue.
This is it.
See?
This is it. Because that message becomes very
Do not lose the momentum. How do you address those ones?
But I think the situation we have right now, why it is almost impossible for you to lose the momentum. The clarion call isn't made at a rally somewhere at a designated geographical location. No, the rallying call is made online, and it's constantly being made, and the communication is still ongoing. There's no day it actually stops. So even the things that we're saying here are still being discussed. Other issues are being discussed in small groupings and in larger forums. It's continuing. You see? This is the beauty of the communication age. So even as we speak, because what we're speaking also will also end up online. What we're saying now will end up online at some point. The question one wants to ask is if indeed those in the security arm of government understand and know that there are people who are infiltrating, they must know the channels through which these people are being marshaled, how they're being brought together, corralled, and how they're being brought in. Now, this is the question to them. What are they going to do about it? It's really very simple. Because one way of ensuring that this thing comes to a halt is that they deal with the genesis. All these people, where they're coming from, who is funding them, look for the funders. Okay? Now, if they don't do that, you see, the unfortunate thing about protests like this, they have a tendency of acquiring a life of their own. We are sitting here analyzing and looking at it and giving our suggestions, but you will find that because of the communications, some of which we are actually not aware of, just like these goons have formed into groups and they decide to come, the very, very groups of young men and women who are the majority, goons are a minority, they may decide things that we don't know about right now. They may have looked and said, our movement is being hijacked. There's something we need to know about it. If there's anything I've learned from this group of young people, is this. Their thinking is rather different from the way some of us think. No. They are not going to take this infiltration lying down. Now, that is where my problem comes in. Because if there are confrontations, and this is what I think the sponsors want.
Confrontations.
Yes, a confrontation.
A case like the one of yesterday where there are people who then say we are protecting our businesses, and then there are gangs who are coming and saying we want the business.
Yes, that is what they want. So that attention is drawn away from what the protests were for to now the discussion about hooliganism and how our streets have become ungovernable.
Lawlessness.
Precisely.
And that will be the conversation.
No, it goes, if I take this as a logical conclusion.
The response.
What you're looking for, if this thing is countrywide, what does it lay the grounds for? A state of emergency.
And a proper crackdown.
Yes. Now that changes the complexion of everything completely. The moment you have a state of emergency, you will not be able to protest. It'll be illegal. It'll be unlawful. So why the taking a breath and taking a step back is necessary? If there are people on the street who are perpetrating what we're seeing, it will not be the protesters. You will know who they are, and you can go and arrest all of them if you wish. Arrest all of them.
And I think that's why it needs to be looked at from that aspect. That there is a clear scuttling of the agenda. And it has to be looked at from that external eye to say, okay, guys, a minute. Because already, what narrative is being spun? look at the folks who are in a position of influence, whether it is online or whether speaking in whatever circles. What is it now? That these protests, you see, all along what they wanted was to lean on the side of hooliganism. That's it.
It has begun.
That is what it has already started. And it takes away from the integrity of what this thing was meant to be in the very first place. And I insist that there is not a thing wrong. In fact, it is encouraged for citizens to push for accountability when it comes to governance. It is imperative that the citizenry does that. It doesn't matter what age group. And it will come a time where you have the masses who are insisting that things be done right. But when you get to the point whereby, whether it is alleged or not, that there are certain individuals who don't want to be held to account, who want to throw in a criminal element to this thing, at that point you must take a step back and say, hold on a minute. The agenda is being scuttled here, and this is not what we want. How can we continue to push this message away from this criminal element? And that is what has to be looked at right now. We can't run away from the reality.
So what I'm hearing you guys say is there needs to be a loud and amplified voice by very many people who say, we are not going onto the streets.
Yes.
We are not going physically onto the streets.
We are not going to be represented by this group.
Those that do not belong to this group, let them come and say, not streets. But we shall be on the X streets, on the social media streets, on all these other platforms. We shall be there. We shall appear in church. We shall be there. We shall appear in, we shall be there. We shall have the same conversation.
We shall sustain this.
We shall sustain this in other ways and forms.
Yes.
As we think of how else we can physically appear.
Yes.
I remember one of the first things I felt when I saw this, and you guys know, that I was like, finally, there's a voice that's coming out, and it's coming out. And I said, it must be sustained. Now, the sustainability of this narrative doesn't have to be in the same form through and through.
No.
And that's what we're saying, that you do not take away from the potency of the message because you are saying that the mechanics of the message should change. You're not removing the importance of the message at all. But you're saying, you know what, these guys have come to find us where we are on the streets. The message remains the same. Let's take it somewhere else where there's just as much strength in numbers, where there's just as much strength in message, and we can still push for this thing. Governments have been influenced by what happens digitally. We see that. We know it. And that's a space whereby this very same group of people is very well versed. I would not want the protesters who have this clear message, and it's not just the people who are on the street. There are folks who've been saying, look, let's hold government accountable over and over again. I don't want to see anybody hurt. I don't want to see anybody's image besmirched. Nobody should have to go into hiding. Nah.
But remember, even as everything that we're saying has taken place, there are many people whose livelihoods, not by the vandals, there are people who are in politics and the people who have preferred the status quo. Their livelihoods have been interfered with. Their statuses have been interfered with. There's a threat to the position some of them hold. This is a shift from something they had planned. Some can't even go to their rural homes, can't go to their constituencies. These aren't people who are going to sit back and just let things continue that way. No. They will be very happy to be enjoined in a situation where these entire protests are given as dark a name as possible.
But there are very many other platforms, like you've said. There's, for example, let's say, if you're saying pushing for the immediate constitution of the IEBC.
Yes.
You know, there's that. There's you're watching and clearly saying that we know the bill has passed at this stage and this stage. It's now at this particular stage we are expecting to see. And reminding constantly every day, saying our agenda this week is sign the IEBC Act into law, form the selection panel, or say, no, take that thing back to Parliament and let us include the youth in the selection panel. Or more citizens in the selection panel. Reduce the number of political... I personally feel that political actors should be the minority in that panel. But, you know...
Remember, Eric, Kenyans didn't go to Washington, D.C. to talk to IMF. But IMF heard them.
Yes.
World Bank also heard them. Yes. And those in positions of authority right now can hear you.
And you know, one of the greatest tools that you can use to fight anything is education and information. Let me tell you, there's a thriving of a certain kind of political class anywhere around the world that thrives on the uneducation and misinformation of the people. That because the people do not know or because the people are uneducated about certain things, or even something as simple as people do not have the power of a vote. They thrive in such situations. And so what are we saying to sustain this thing? How about we even encourage people and say, you know what, guys? Voting, you vote based on information and education.
Register.
Register.
Look at the future. So how does